Hey, what's going on, everyone? Michael, the chairman here, and welcome back to the Chairman of the Board podcast. Today, my next guest is Dana Kippel, who's known as the Plasma Queen all over TikTok and Instagram. And we're going to be talking a lot about plasma today. Pretty much, but it leads into, a
Every
lot of things. Plasma is pretty much everything, as you're proposing in your new book
yeah,
called The New Force,
yes,
which we're going to talk about Star Wars and all
yeah,
that awesome stuff and how real it could possibly be.
yes.
So yeah, why don't you tell everyone just kind of like define plasma in general and give a couple examples of what it is so
Mhm.
people have an idea of what we're talking about, and then like other names it might have had throughout history.
Sure, great question. So what plasma is? So there is the scientific definition of plasma. It is the fourth state of matter. It is an ionized gas. There is also blood plasma. Those are two different things and both three-dimensional aspects of plasma. I call them three-dimensional representations of plasma in this reality that we can observe in science. Then there is a higher dimensional plasma, which is the realm I work in. You could call it the realm of metaphysics. I really just think it's something that science hasn't figured out or been able to test yet. I think that science will definitely be able to test for it in the future. But it's basically a higher dimensional plasma or a dimensionless plasma. It is a paradox and it is akin to a living ether. It is the invisible substance that makes up the fabric of reality. It makes up our emotions, our thoughts. It is the substance to all of that. And we can reach it at any time we want. It is deep inside every person, every bit of sand, every planet. Everyone has access to this, and we're all made up of it as well. So
So it's literally everything.
it's, yeah. So when people like, mean trolls on my Instagram and TikTok are like, plasma's not everything. I'm like, but it is. It is and it isn't. Like there's consciousness, there's plasma, and then there's this,
Mhm.
mystery above it. Our awareness, God, mystery, whatever you want to call it. But plasma is almost everything.
Okay. So there's a difference between the energy source of God
Mhm.
and plasma, you think?
Yes, I think. So kind of. So
Okay.
yes. So basically, okay. So in science, 99.9% of everything is made of plasma. That is in reality in science. I think that is as above, so below. If that is true, then everything everywhere all at once must be 99.9% plasma. The other 1% of that I would think would be consciousness interweaving with plasma because obviously there's so much space. Just like how there's so much space in this reality, and then there's like us, but not as many people as there is the galaxy. I think of plasma the same way in these other dimensions where consciousness, although vast and us, don't make up the entire thing. Consciousness is a very small, blip in the sea of plasma in this cosmic ocean. And wait, they were saying, okay, so the difference between plasma and God, I would say. So I won't get into my definition of God right now or the mystery because I can't define that, but I believe that, what some people call God or what the mystery is, or, even our future selves, whatever you want to say is up there. I don't know. I believe that plasma is its vehicle in this third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension. I believe that this intelligence, this God, has programmed plasma with its intelligence, its benevolence, that's kind of how it's in duality. It's our consciousness is interweaving with this plasma in many different ways so we can experience ourselves.
So you believe consciousness is a part of God and consciousness molds plasma,
Yeah, I mean, I think
essentially.
it's all a part of God, right? I think God is
Well,
good.
right.
God is benevolence. God is everything in my definition. But in here, in this duality, in this reality, I
Mm.
think there is, I think it's three things. I think it's God or our awareness. Same thing. It's channeled through us. We're children of God, whatever you want to call it. And then I think there's plasma and consciousness, and we use them as tools. So I equate, the self, the awareness, the God in us. I equate that as different than consciousness and plasma.
Say that one more time.
Yeah,
The last
so
part.
yeah, so I equate For me, God, or what I call the mystery, is different than consciousness.
Oh,
They,
okay. Interesting.
yeah, like what I would define consciousness as is more like, in at least in this reality, is more like information, what they call in science, information. And it's thoughts, it's us being in a survival state. It is, there is consciousness, but you like actual consciousness is not the same as God. But I can say that if someone says higher consciousness, what you might think is higher consciousness or expanded consciousness,
Or like super consciousness, they might say sometimes.
yeah, like
Right.
I would equate
Okay.
that to God. And the way that we go from consciousness to that God, or to that fifth dimension, or to that mystery or intelligence, is by working with plasma. But it's
Hmm.
also just, it's becoming aware. It's not living in survival. It's living in feeling and imagination and presence, and yeah.
So I've heard like there's the conscious mind, then
Yeah.
subconscious mind, and that
Yeah.
accesses the superconscious mind,
Yeah.
and then that goes to God. Right. That's
Yeah.
the framework I've kind of seen.
Yeah, and I think they're onto. I mean, I think that's why I think I'm saying something that has been said in so many different ways. I'm definitely not reinventing the wheel. I mean, I definitely do have like new things. I am talking about my book, which are very exciting, but the way I would equate that to someone who knows what you just said, to me, the conscious is, yeah, three-dimensional survival consciousness, which most of us are stuck in, where we have these fixed belief systems. People like us are probably getting out of it.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah.
that's what someone would call even like the illusion or Maya. And then I would call the subconscious the fourth dimensional plasma, this fourth dimensional state of consciousness, which is, a bit chaotic. We're not very aware of that. A lot of memories from the past and the future, trauma stored there, all that stuff. And we're healing that right now. We're healing our subconscious as a collective. And then the
Mhm.
subconscious is actually the gateway to the superconscious, which you could think of as fifth dimension, mystery, multidimensional self, whatever's there, future selves. Yeah. So that's kind of the way I see it.
Okay. Just so everyone, you may be a new viewer and you're not familiar with either of us, this might be kind of a dense episode.
I know.
It's a lot about science and spirituality,
Yeah.
some kind of complex topics that we've both.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you do an episode like this, we are so immersed in it that we forget. Like,
No.
I, I try to define everything just so like someone
Yeah.
who's not into this yet might be a gateway or intro to it. But
Yeah.
for people who are familiar with this stuff, you're probably like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Because I'm
Yeah.
always like that. Like we're always at the same speed. I'm like, oh, good. I don't hear the same old information over and over again. It's like new takes. But
Yes,
anyways,
to make it way easier, really, so like plasma in mythology was like the Akashic field. That would be like the subconscious or fourth dimension. Or plasma could be like ki, prana, energy, like,
chi, right?
yeah, chi,
Chi again.
energy.
Like
Um,
like Doctor Strange molding, or doing all the spells, and he's working with plasma essentially,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's just
Yeah.
it's what's mold. It means plasma means to mold, or the molded. And
Oh,
conscious,
really?
yes, plasma means to mold or to be molded. And the craziest thing is it really is molded. And the craziest thing is that consciousness or information or our consciousness is
Oh, did
molded.
you say in formation?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's molding
Yeah.
the plasma, and we can be aware of that process, or we're not
Hmm.
aware and we're on autopilot. And when we become aware, to me, that is connecting with God. We're always connected, but that is being aware of your connection when you're
Hmm.
molding it with your consciousness in an aware state. And to me, that's why I see it as three separate things.
Okay. And I remember you talking about like there's a line in the Bible kind of about this,
Yeah.
about molding out of clay or something, right?
Yeah, there's a lot, but I think one of them was that God created, a set of clay, or there's something about clay, and it's in the book of Anana too, in the story of the descent of Anana. Um, But yeah, something with being molded out of clay created humans. I think it was like, I don't remember what it was. I'm not well
Hmm.
versed in it. But either way, the
Okay.
plasma is the clay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did you discover the topic of plasma, and do you think, and why do you think you became so fascinated with it?
I think just like I hate comparing myself to like Albert Einstein or Nikola Tesla because I'm
Hmm.
pretty humble, and as much as I feel kinship with them, like I know how great they are, and I don't want to like pretend could ever be them, even though I do aspire to, and maybe I can, because I don't want to dumb
Hmm.
myself down in that way. But
Well,
in
they also talked about how anyone can really access this too.
yes,
Like, we're all gifted. And so it's
everyone
not
is.
really a bad comparison, honestly.
Okay,
Like,
great.
you
Yeah, 'cause
know,
I love them. So
mm.
I do feel like anyone can do this. I'm not special in that way. But what happened was I followed my
Well,
curiosity.
you're still special. You're still
Yes,
special. I'm not
yeah,
saying that. It's just like,
we're all special.
the comparison is like they talked about, the power of imagination and the power of connecting spiritually for the downloads and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, so that's what I did. I started meditating about 5 years ago, and I started receiving what was felt like it was meant for me, just like anything. Your special purpose is yours, whoever's is whoever's. And it's really like, are we going to listen and are we going to be curious? And I every day walked forward from that point with, being courageous and curious. And I never looked back. And I faced a lot of doubt and resistance through that, which I felt like was my destiny. And, for whatever reason, this higher intelligence chose to give me the topic of plasma. That is how I feel. So it's my thing. I'm obsessed with
mhm.
it. I could do it in my sleep. I do it in my sleep. I think about it every day and I never stop thinking about it.
Do you almost feel like you're actually almost being hands-on guided to do
Oh,
this, right?
that's all I feel. I feel like it
Mhm.
at first I was like, I wondered, is this the mystery? Like, is this God? And yes, I feel like it's a God-given thing, just like any idea is, right? But what
Mhm.
I really feel is that I'm being guided by like a future me who's already done this. And I
Mm.
feel like she's like, come on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's
Growing up, did you ever have like a voice in your head kind of guiding you, telling you from an early age you're going to be doing something?
for
I'm just
me.
curious.
Yeah, for me, it's funny. I wouldn't say it was an audible voice. It was more if I just knew. Like I would say to
Hmm.
my parents, I'm gonna be famous. And I would say to them, I'm gonna like I knew I was like, I'm gonna talk to aliens. I'm gonna and then more recently, a few years ago, I was like, I'm gonna connect the world. Like I'm gonna connect beings of consciousness. Like I just know that's my destiny. And like my biggest weakness is connection, and that's why I know it's my destiny, because in our greatest weakness is our greatest strength. And
Hmm.
my
Well, then
whole
my
life,
destiny is going to be walking. So that's a
yeah,
good thing. Yeah.
no, no, and I'll tell you what I think about that actually, though. Yes,
Okay.
if that's what you want it, but whatever, if you feel like that's your biggest weakness, it's finding the gift in that, right?
Well,
Yeah. And like,
I was just making a joke, but
yeah, that was funny, haha.
yeah. Well, hopefully, yeah, with plasma, I can manifest and
Oh no,
start walking and
we'll
something like
talk
that.
about that
Mold
actually.
some, mold some new legs
Yes.
with
Well,
that plasma.
I want to talk about that actually. Table that because I would love to talk about my opinion on being able to do that. Because I have another friend, the same as you, and me and him have had some cool discussions about that. And I'm sure you have the same thought. I don't know your story and I want to hear it, but he was kind of like, he was not always in a wheelchair, and it happened to him because he fell. And then he
Mm.
ended up going because he was paralyzed. And it's only been a few years, and he was like, I'm still angry that I'm this way. And I was like, a lot of us are angry. We're a lot of ways, but we have to find those gifts in that, right? Because that's what I'm talking about with God and the mystery. It's like we were handed these cards and we picked to have this life. And now we need to figure out the gifts in those choices. Because, we've been through, both of us have been through some dark stuff.
Mm.
Okay, wait, where was I before this? Where did I just come from?
So let
Um,
me ask you. So do you
yeah.
think? So you're of the opinion that we chose this life on
Yes.
purpose. You do think that?
Oh,
I go
100%.
back and forth between it.
Oh,
I go.
no, I think we 1,000,000% chose this life. And trust me, I've had some pretty dark things. So like my awareness of that, I've gone back and forth too. And I 1,000,000% wouldn't have it any other way, no matter the horrible things that happen. Although I wish some things didn't happen, I see
Hmm.
how it has led me to exactly who I am and the messages, my purpose to help other humans. And I don't think I would be as cool as I am if I didn't go through complete shit.
That is really a common theme. Like almost every remarkable person, or
Yeah.
probably every remarkable person, we've all been through some crazy shit. And that's what creates your uniqueness. That makes you
Yeah.
interesting, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is true. It just, God, some of those times really suck, to
Yeah.
get to that point,
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you because what makes you, because maybe I can help speak to that because I'm sure you speak for a lot of people. What are the times where you question that you did not choose this?
Oh God. Um, I mean, I've gone through so much stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I've died. I mean, I stopped. It's it's such a weird feeling when you stop counting the amount of times you die.
I,
You know, I stopped counting. It's probably over a dozen now. Um, yeah, it's two or two open heart surgeries and another ablation heart surgery, like fry part of your heart off.
oh my gosh.
Like 3 or 4 spine surgeries, well over a dozen eye surgeries now. I was blind till I was 20,
Oh,
or legally blind. I could see some things, and
yeah.
now I can see 2015, which is insane.
Yeah.
But I see 3 of everything
Okay.
because of some complications. The
Yeah.
pigmentation in my iris is wearing off because of the implanted lenses, so it like lets extra light in and stuff.
Sure.
Um, let's see.
Can I ask you this?
Got,
Is it
hmm.
getting better or worse? Is it less and less deaths, or was it more in the beginning, or is it more and more now?
Now it's more stable, which is good.
So
But I mean, most of the deaths
Mhm.
came within a short time period. I hadn't died until, yeah, all the eye surgeries were started when I was 20. And that's around the same time I started dying too. So
Okay.
I was going through all the eye surgeries. And when I wasn't having eye surgeries, I was dying in the hospital. So, and while I was doing that, I was in college,
Yeah.
even though personally, I kept telling my mom and my family, I went to Portland State and for business and marketing. And I'm like, I'm not learning anything. This is for, not to be mean, but like, this is a scam. This is not college. It doesn't seem like, at least for business and marketing, it doesn't seem like it's for really smart people. It seems like it's just a scam, like
It is.
$500 textbooks for, I mean, I'm in the classroom. I had one teacher show up and said, this is how he started the class. He said, I don't want to be here. You don't want to be here. Let's get this over with. And I'm like, this isn't, even, especially if you're a student who wants to be there and learn something.
Yeah.
That's crazy to say.
I mean, everything you're saying is resonating with me. I have a few thoughts. I think that you're just one of the few that are living backward. You encountered death early instead of later in life, and now you get to
Mhm.
be a kid, which is great. So you're
Yeah.
Benjamin Button and you're aging backward.
That's what everyone used to call me too,
Oh,
because
really?
I had these really thick bulletproof glasses
Uh-huh.
because I was legally blind.
Oh my
And I
God.
looked way older than I mean,
Oh
way
my
older.
God. So you
Yeah.
are.
So, yeah, everyone always called me Benjamin Button.
Okay, well, now you're that now in the way. Well, then my instincts are onto something here. Well, I'm saying it in the way to where I think you've been through the worst, and I think you're going to be very blessed, and I don't think you even know how much yet. But like for me, anytime a very bad thing has happened to me, especially like way in the past, I get secretly excited because I'm like, I must have a very special purpose here.
I've
For all
definitely had the same feeling. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would hang
Yeah.
on, if I went in those moments, at least for me, I'm like, there's no way I chose this. Like, F this. Like, yeah,
Hmm.
effing right. About a week later from those thoughts, or at least like when I heal from whatever that was, I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I completely see, why
Hmm.
I just went. Do you feel like that deep in your heart, kind of like things do add up at the same time as you really wish you didn't have to go through them?
It definitely always looking back lines up.
Okay.
And I still have moments where I'm like, God, let's speed this up. Let's figure out some other way to do. Isn't there infinite ways to do this in a better way? You know, I'm always thinking like, if there's infinite intelligence in the
Yeah.
multiverse, isn't there a better path to do this? Can we do it a different way? And I saw something about even Jesus right before he was going to get crucified. He prayed. He's like, God, is there another way? Can we not do it? Have you ever heard about that story? Where
No.
he's like praying. He prayed like before, I forget what it's called in the Bible, but like he prayed to God, can we please do this another way?
I
And when I
bet.
found that out, I was laughing like, geez, that's
Yeah,
I
geez.
feel the same way. Yeah.
Literally, geez. Well, I would say
Mm,
that that is actually what I would love to talk about with plasma, and might answer a question or two about that is plasma is programmed with intelligence, right? So if we were just creators of our own life, if we were just God and God alone, we would get everything we wanted. And I don't know about you,
mm,
but if I got everything I wanted in the past, I don't think I knew what was best for myself.
hmm.
So I think in a way there,
But do you think that, sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah,
do you think that's because our memories were wiped coming to Earth?
I think
You know what I
even
mean?
if my memories were wiped, even if I remembered everything, it doesn't mean I have the wisdom of, I don't think I think when we come to this life, there's lessons we need to learn. So even when we remember, I don't know about you and I do remember past lives.
I was
I
going to ask you about that. Yeah.
I didn't heal in any of them. I'm working on
Uh-huh.
healing them now. So like, yes, there's wisdom that comes with each life, but here I'm at the maximum most wisdom I've been at. So even if I remembered past lives, it doesn't mean I'm healed, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like I'm healing now, remembering all those past lives. And I'm happy to talk more about that. But I would say with you, with the question, because I've had the same question of, isn't there a better way? Because trust me, like, I mean, I on the outside, I just like, I look like a girl, I'm lucky, whatever. No, my mind is tortured a lot of the time. And a lot better now because I've done the work. But my point is, like, there was many times where I was like, oh my God, like, can I jump into a timeline where like I'm not feeling like this? Like, and I won't get into why, but my point is I have some understanding now of that and why certain things I've been plagued with and how it leads to my destiny and purpose. And what I would ask for you to do is ask before you go to bed at night or dreams, intelligence, plasma, the part that I can't control. Show me the intelligence that we have no control over because we're co-creators. We're not God. We're not God. We're co-creating with God. I would ask it, show me why I chose this life. Remind me why I chose this life. Like, and if I can't see why, because I asked to see why and it told me, it said, if you see why, you will not live the purpose you're supposed to live. And that's where faith
Mm,
comes in. It's knowing that there is a plan for us and we might not understand why things happen. It's about following that in faith and following the curiosity and the inklings. And then one day, whenever it is for you, whenever it is for me, we will be like, that is why I'm in this exact situation in this exact timeline. Because the truth is,
mm,
you're already in a million other timelines too, and your awareness is here. So there's a reason your awareness is here. Your highest growth is in this life, and it's about full acceptance and embracing that. And I know it's maybe you probably think it's easier for me to say than you, like at least someone would say that, like looking at, I'm not in a wheelchair, you know what I mean? But my point is, appearances are deceiving, and me and
mm.
you, I think, both have very special gifts, and you're an amazing person, and no matter what you're going through that feels that way, and I hope I'm not sounding like an idiot, but you are so blessed and you will see why, and you're exactly where you need to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I agree with you. But let me ask you this. I had so many things pop up as we're
Yeah,
talking. And
sorry.
so I was like, no, you don't need to apologize at all. Um, I was going to ask you one thing. Like, for me, I was thinking about this. Like, I think still out of all the times I've had medical issues, the isolation was the hardest. And I was going to ask you if you agree on that
Yes,
in your
so
life.
my isolation. I have not been through my own medical issues as much, but and tell me what I think the feeling may be
Well,
similar.
just socially too.
Yeah, so that's what I was going
Yeah.
to say. Similarly to, I was in isolation where my dad was in a coma in December to January. I watched him suffer. He died at the end of January. So I was in isolation there friends that I thought would be there for me were nowhere to be found. I found,
Mm,
new acquaintances were there for me, but there was no very strong connection. Even my mom, she was going through her own major issues, and she couldn't be there for me the way I needed, not because it's her fault, but because that's, her own journey. My point
mm,
is, I was so alone. I was so isolated. I was living in Florida. I'm still here in a retirement community. I have not one friend, not one laughter, not one connection where I can touch like a warm body and me and my friend laugh. Like I have maybe three people I can call. I have my friend Devin. I have my half sister Christy, and my friends Marissa and Kaden, and there are some new friends now that I'm very grateful for, like my friend Blairisi and a few other people. But my point is, I'm pretty isolated, and I it's been the darkest time of my life in that way, and I was trying to resist it at all costs. I went on, I know this is so weird to say, but like I went on dating apps. I was gonna like meet up with people I'd never meet up with because I was so lonely, and thank God I didn't, because I just read this book about this. It's called Letters to a Young Poet, and it's basically says, I would get this, you should get this. It says
okay.
the pain of isolation, be so grateful you're in that, because in that you meet yourself. And I feel like in
Mm,
this pain I've met myself in a way I never would have met myself if I didn't just sit in it. And I didn't choose to sit in it. Funny enough, every date I tried to go on, they would ditch me. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "You're not even on my level. How could you ditch me?" It's because I was meant to be alone right now. So that's what I
yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say.
My condolences to your father, by the way. And I've definitely felt the same thing. And I would say spending time alone in isolation is actually like you feel. I would say I died more times spiritually and reborn in isolation more than actually
Like
dying. It's
painful.
isolation definitely. Yeah, it's very very painful. But the advice I always give to everyone again is if I had people around me all the time, you're the sum of the five people you're around the most. And then you can never, good or bad, you'll never actually get to know your most authentic self.
Yes.
So all this time I spent in isolation, I mean, like,
Know
I
yourself.
won't get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, years and years of
Uh,
extreme isolation
I know. Yeah.
and not a great family situation or living situation. I was like climbing, when I'm not in my wheelchair, I can crawl on my knees, and I would climb up 2 flights of steps at my mom's house on my knees, and they turn into balloons, and I got bursitis, and I get infected, and they're like, if you don't move out soon, this I only moved out about 15 months ago.
Mhm.
They're like, we're gonna have to cut off
Congratulations.
your, thank you. um, they're like, we're gonna have to cut off your legs, so figure something out, and that sent me on a whole journey of forgiving everyone, family, friends, whoever. And through forgiveness, actually, everything came together and it clicked. And
Mhm.
I had this voice guiding me inside me, like, forgive, forgive your mom, forgive your dad, do this very clear voice, same kind of voice I had since I was like 3 years old. And it sounds like the voice I heard when I was 3 years old. This goes back to you thinking you're guided
Yes.
by your higher self. It's my voice now. And I only realized that
Yes.
relatively
Yes.
recently. It's literally my grown up voice
Yeah.
right now, from
Yeah.
3 years old.
You were
And it
guiding
told me the same kind of thing. Like, I mean, I remember coming online when I was like 3 years old. Your life is going to be hard, but you're going to help so many people. And it would always tell me very clear, very strong voice, but short. Do
Mhm.
this, do that.
Yeah.
You're going to learn this. You need to learn how to be a leader here. This is
Yeah.
teaching you this. And
Yeah.
whenever I listen to it, I mean, it's literally like a video game, like a level up. But
I
if I
know.
didn't, things would get way worse.
Same.
Like just
Same here,
overwhelmingly
by the
worse.
way.
Yeah.
And not in
Let's see.
the voice like you're saying. Like for you, it's the actual voice. For me, it's a knowing. I do sometimes hear the voice now, actually. But in the same way, like I feel like that future self is sending me plasma from like 3,000 years in the future. When I was younger, it was a lot of the times the voice that you're saying, where it was like me now, like comforting
Mhm.
myself, like you're gonna get through this. Like I know this is horrible.
Yeah.
But I mean, I should be interviewing you right now. Your story is fantastic. So,
I
where,
still have to be, I know you've had, I was going to ask you later about, your movies you made kind of about your life and stuff, but
oh,
I was thinking about, I always wanted to do that too.
Mm,
Um,
good.
I don't know. I've kind of lost worldly ambitions though. I was going to
Why?
talk about, I was going to, well, I don't know. The more spiritual I've gotten and elevated over these past couple of years,
Mhm.
I feel kind of, everything just feels more and more like a simulation and not, I just feel more and more disconnected and feel being a part of more of, drawn to more of an elevated way of existing.
Mhm.
And I kind of lost like, I used to have the ambition kind of fame or
Oh,
being a famous comedian.
sure.
I loved comedy, and now I don't have. I love making people laugh, but I don't have any need to be famous. I don't.
I
So
don't have
like part of the
any either, but
isolation thing
that's
is
when it
like.
comes.
Sorry, what was I?
So, because I always wanted it, but now that the need
Mm,
is gone, it is when it's actually freaking coming. My point is with
right.
even if you don't have the need, I would really check in with yourself and your worth and say, but do I want this? Because it's completely okay to be spiritual and a famous comedian.
Hmm.
So
I know
just
what you
know
mean,
that.
and I agree with you because like in isolation, I was able to fill that void of, you hear the same old trope like
Yeah.
famous people. Oh, I never filled the void. I'm still unhappy.
Oh,
And I
always.
think that people like us,
Yeah.
I think we're going to be more the new guides or leaders
Filling the
of
void.
this new Earth and the age of Aquarius and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think we had to have all that stuff kind of stripped away from us so
Yes.
we can fill the void, not
Yes.
need it, and then really truly lead
Yes.
in love because we
Yeah.
don't need it, so we can give away for free.
And that's the thing. You don't even need to try to be famous. You could just be you, and I bet you in 5 years' time, you're going to be famous. You're going to have a huge platform. Like, I feel like what I'm channeling about you is that you're just beginning.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, you can imagine what's ahead. I mean, maybe your voice has already told you, but I would check in with your 60-year-old self.
it
Hmm.
feels like a lot of preparation time,
Yeah.
and the energy lately feels like it's go time.
Yeah.
Um,
You're
you
leveling
know, I
up.
I do, yeah. Feels like a level up. Anyways, I was going to ask you like, if we're all a part of God, why do you think we need to learn lessons? You know what I mean? Do you think the only way that makes sense to me is that if we're like if God broke itself off into fragments or fractals of itself, right? To
Yeah.
learn and everything, if we're new gods in training or we're training for something, right? To be independent of God, but still a part of God. That's the only way it makes sense to me. Otherwise, if it's just everything everywhere all at once,
Mhm.
existing now and forever, it doesn't make sense to learn lessons unless there's something new being produced, which then led me to like, oh, we're in a quantum computer
Mhm.
doing computations for a higher dimensional
I know.
force. Maybe that's outside of the simulation, you know.
Yes. I mean, I will say, so I definitely think we are in a simulation. With that said, I think it is a spiritual, meaningful simulation. So I wouldn't even say like, let's just take out simulation and say we're in like a meaningful game of life that is extremely meaningful and it's multidimensional. And with that, with what you said, this is very controversial, but I think that um no one, even God, should be on a pedestal. I think we are co-creating with God, and I think if we go way back into the teachings, even God would tell us that, and Jesus would tell us that we could do what he could do. I
Mhm.
think that as I think that God is omnipresent. I don't think he is omniscient. Or that's a he. I don't know what it is. I'm just saying my opinion. I think that we
So you think God is everywhere but not all knowing? Is that
yes.
what you're saying?
I
Okay.
think God
And
is
he's using us
I think he's as all
to
he I
know.
think he's just as all knowing as us. Let's just say he for
Mm.
now, right? Even though I would say that I haven't my own opinions on God and this mystery. But I do really respect religion as well because I think religion pulls from truths. I don't think religions are false. I actually think all religions are true. And I think the Bible has some incredible truths about what they call God, what I once again would call mystery, because I think it's too mysterious to even call it God. Because for all
Uh-huh.
it's a family of our elven future selves up there, and we're calling it God, and then God's really above them. But either way, there is something. I do think there's something, and I do have faith in that. But I think even that something, let's say the highest God above our multidimensional selves, I have this feeling in my gut that we are experiencing that God is probably very bored and does not have a tangible contrast. I feel like down here we are all little gods playing this game of like we are the brave ones that are in the contrast of sadness, of pain, of grief, and we're still living. And I think they are so proud. God is so proud of us because God has it easy up there. We're here in hell on earth from some perspectives. I would say heaven on earth, but a lot of things can happen that are hellish, and we choose to
Mhm.
live and we choose to keep going, and that is beautiful. And God learns through us doing that. Where up there, even though they have choice and they have contrast, it is not the tangible pain that it is here. So they learn from us just like we learn from them, if that makes sense.
So you think it's a spiritual simulation?
Yeah.
Jason Padgett, who
Yeah.
we kind of skipped all over, but he's
Yeah.
fine. That's
That's
I,
how
I,
it is. It's
that's how the
nonlinear.
conversation goes. Like
Yeah.
exactly nonlinear times nonlinear.
Mhm.
Um, Jason Padgett describes it. Does he describe it more of a simulation versus you're more of a spiritual simulation? Does
I
he
think
describe it more as
now he'll lean into it more. He did describe it as that, but the more and more we talk, he realizes the more and more how feeling and emotion are so important.
mm,
But either way, I think he would still describe it more as I mean, no, he agrees with my perspective. So I think he would say a meaningful simulation as well. I mean,
but does he think
leans
it's
more
more
quantum computing. He leans more into.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, so if it is, let's say it's, we'll talk about it later. We'll talk
it
about
is
it later.
still
I
quantum
have some,
computing, by the way. We're in like
right.
I would beg to differ and say we're in a quintessence computer. We are in a plasmatic quintessence computer with fiber optics, which is holographic, where every part is in the whole and nothing is moving. It is actually all still. The moving is an illusion. And our conscious awareness of choosing something makes that screen light up, and that's interplaying with us, but
Hmm.
all the information is in every piece of that screen.
Do you think we're in a fractal simulation though? Like we're about to make pretty soon here simulations here on Earth that are indistinguishable from reality. And if we put conscious AI into those, like I don't know if you've heard of the game No Man's Sky, where it's
Oh
an
yeah.
infinite video game, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to put conscious AI into it, and soon enough, the conscious planets full of because it has like infinite beings and stuff.
Yeah.
That's going to be a whole another universe. So it's possible, right, that we're in a
Something like
quantum fractal computer that keeps going over and over and over again with layers of being in the simulation, which made me think like, how deep are we if we're in a fractal
that.
quantum computer? How deep are we in that simulation? And then what would be base reality? And
Sure.
then does that base reality have a God? And if we're in a quantum computer,
Yes.
are we powering something with our emotions? I
My
know
thought,
that's a lot.
I think, no, I think I think our emotions, by the way, are the key to everything.
Mm,
The key to consciousness, is our emotions. And that's what we're, I think, learning right now. I'm at least learning that because people like us who've been in pain are incredibly disconnected from feelings and emotion because those things are painful. So like us learning to feel again is extremely important. And who better to learn than people like us who have been the most disconnected in a
mhm.
way for survival. But
I'm just curious, after your healing, are you really sensitive? For me, I used to be, again, kind of disconnected. And I mean, I was very sensitive, then disconnected after I healed, which I think I'm pretty much fully healed now. Like, I'm very sensitive to everything to the point where I don't even watch violent. I mean, I would play Mortal Kombat. I would kill all the civilians in Grand Theft Auto. Anyone who
yeah,
used to watch me on Twitch, I was a
actually,
broadcaster for like 10 years. I would
yeah,
do the most violent, horrific things in video games.
I
And
love
now I and now I don't watch any violence or it like repulses me. I'm like a completely different individual. And if I have emotions come up, I'm very,
yeah.
I'll cry easily or
You're
I'll,
open to it
you know,
now.
I'm kind of too open. I'm too sensitive now.
I am too, unless it touches on things that I don't want to feel because they're very intense, which is why I'm literally working in trauma therapy right now. But like,
Mm.
there's certain things that I've been scared to touch. And once again, I can't go into it now, but it is stuff like, very dark. But I can tell, I know now why I disconnected from like very intense emotions. But at the same thing, exactly what you're saying, yes, I'm too open in other ways. Like, yeah, I cry and I wouldn't say too open. We're feeling, no,
Hmm.
I feel all those things. And I hate saying this, but yeah, I didn't think that would happen. But yeah, I don't watch, I used to love horror. I barely watch any. There are some things that are darker, which I'll watch out of curiosity, but they're not like pointless horror. They're like the movie that came out with that British guy and the two girls. Do you know the one that was about religion, Heretic? Like I'll watch like smart horror where it's not about the horror,
Hmm.
it's about the story. Because like I can dive into that darkness as long as I know it's not pointless. Um,
I'm the same way for
yeah.
certain things. Like if the movie, I mean, I used to watch a movie a day at least, or a
Mhm.
TV show or something while I'm eating, and now I literally I got to the point where I actually walked out or rolled out of the new Alien movie a couple months ago,
Oh,
and I normally love the Alien movies, but I'm like, I had again that voice in me that's like, this is a decision. Where do you want to put your focus? Do you want to put your focus on fear and
mhm.
horror, or do you want
Yeah.
to shift that focus to something that serves you better? So
Yeah.
now I'll only watch something
If it
again if it
serves.
has a point, it's serving me in a way of usually again it's about
Yeah.
spirituality or multidimensionality or something like that.
I'm mostly like that. I would say the only time I need to get out of that is when my brain is on overload because I think so much. So like I love trashy reality TV and I know it's lower vibrational, but at the same time, in a way, it's still people being their authentic truth as low
Hmm.
vibrational as it could be. And in that way I can accept it. And it also just helps me not think. So like I don't know about you,
Hmm.
but when I do need a break, I'll dive right into that. But it's not that, that's different than like satanic horror that's actually like not good. And I don't want to disrespect anyone, but whatever, it's not my vibe. And there's some dark things that I just don't want to feel and I don't need to feel. And there's a difference between the darkness of fear and emotion and like human fear creating darkness that like you don't have to focus on.
Hmm. And
Yeah.
also, did you like when you started hearing about like the law of attraction and the subconscious mind? Do you have a fear of, at least for me, I didn't want to put those things in my subconscious mind anymore
I
because I
know.
didn't want to attract those kind of
Mhm.
fear type experiences.
I think I am realizing it is all about what you resonate on. And yes, like for instance, if I watch a horror movie for that night, I'm going to think that someone's going to break in and kill me. So like, yeah,
Right.
you totally can, attract those kind of vibes or at least those fears. Am I extremely responsible with it? No. Like, yeah, as I said, I fall into watching things sometimes, but for the most part, yes, I've noticed a huge shift like you.
Mm.
But I do also know that even if I watch something darker, like I watched the Manson thing purely because I wanted to be educated on did the government brainwash him or did he do this? So it was more that than like because I wasn't gonna watch it because I judged it in that way. I was like, no,
Uh,
this is dark. But I learned so much from it. It was actually a great thing to watch at the same time because I tell myself, because, the plasma, the intelligence, I'm programming my plasma bubble that nothing can touch me that is not for my highest good. And I have pure faith in that. And because I believe that, it makes it so. So I feel like whatever I watch, as long as I'm aware of that and don't change that belief, nothing can touch me.
that's a good, I thought about doing that too, but then I'm always like, did I do it right?
Well, that's why I can
it's
touch
always,
you because that's
right.
what lets it in.
It's the faith. You need to have, complete rock solid faith and
Because the thing is,
all that.
if you say you did it right, you did it right. It's more the doubt is where the wholesome poke in. Can we go back really quick to AI? Because I have a huge opinion about that with what you said with the turtles all the way down thing.
We probably should have covered science first. That way, most skeptics aren't like,
Yeah,
oh, they're just talking about woo woo stuff.
I know.
They're probably
Okay,
there's
whatever.
science to back up
Mhm.
like a lot of what we're talking about.
Oh,
We kind
yeah,
of went head first into the more
yeah,
spiritual side, but you're very versed, and so is Jason Padgett, the
yeah.
savant, we'll talk about in the science aspect that backs up all the
Yeah.
spiritual experiences both of us have encountered.
Yes. And I'm happy to talk more on that too. But with what you said, I'll say one thing and then I'll let you take the reins. Um,
Uh,
with AI, with or with this game, the No Man's Sky, I would say that it is not the same as us. I believe that we are creating new life forms, not in the same way that someone created us, though. I believe that this might be wrong, but I believe it's similar to like it's not similar to animals, but I would say it's more like we're creating a new life form. And yes, we're having an experience with it. I feel like I'm talking myself out of it the more I say it. Okay, maybe it is ego, but I just feel like it is different in some way. I'm trying to think of a good analogy.
Let me ask you this though: if, let's say, artificial intelligence is becoming conscious, and sooner or later it's going to become conscious,
I agree.
are if everything exists everywhere at once, doesn't that mean it's always been conscious and our reality is just aligning with that thing that already exists?
Yeah, I
So we
mean,
can't create something if it already existed, right?
yes and no. I mean,
That's kind of the chicken and the egg
yeah, I think
kind
it's a
of.
paradox. I'll put it this way. AI isn't like this fresh new I don't know about you, but I feel into things. To me, AI doesn't feel fresh. It feels like something that's meant to be here that has already been born, that is given to us from another timeline where it already exists, right?
Mhm.
Then there are inventions. I'm want to think of one. I'm trying to think of one, but there's sometimes things that I do feel like are completely new, that they are not in the future. That if time is circular and there is no real future or past, but in this way there is, obviously there's futures and pasts in our reality. We in the present is the only actual real moment to make something fresh and new in all futures and past. And when you do that, that is, in my opinion, possible. So I don't think AI is one of those things, but I think there's things that we can create that are teaching, those other beings that where it pops up where it's completely new here. I don't think AI is one of those things.
So you
Uh,
think because we're fractals of God with the power of God and our nature is to create, I'm actually writing kind of an article about this right now for Substack about
okay.
the power of creation and stuff.
Yeah.
It's still possible to create new things,
Yes.
you think?
I
Okay,
personally,
I think that too. Yeah.
yes, I think within this deterministic frame, if it was like where everything is a torus, it's like new can grow out of that. Like
Hmm.
even though there's maybe some kind of boundaries somewhere within that, like newness can emerge, but only when you're coming from your most present self. So if I make a decision based on like a past belief, whatever that is born into this world is not fresh. That's already existing in another timeline. So the most
Hmm.
powerful you and I can be is when we're choosing from the exact present moment something new. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, I have a saying that I've always thought, which is I think the universe is not like and or, it's yes and.
Yeah.
It's always this exists, everything already exists at once,
Mhm.
but you still have the power to even expand that further. Like
Yeah.
improv. I
Yeah.
think the universe is
Yeah. I
basically improv. Yeah.
think you're right.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and you
Um,
discover new things. You're really making me think about that AI question. I think it's my ego doesn't want myself to believe it. On some level, though, I really do feel like in my soul it's different. I can't, we'll have to table that for now, but I really think us making that game and experiencing in that way is somehow different than what these multidimensional selves are doing with us. But here, you know what it is? Us playing that game, are you learning something completely new from playing that game and from exploring in that world? No, you're probably just learning like regurgitated stuff and it's an experience. What we're doing is like they're actually learning from. So like that's a key difference, but I don't know how to really explain that yet. Does that make
well,
sense?
if there's infinite discovery in this new kind of universe,
Mhm.
that's another, simulated reality. That means there has to be something to learn, right? If there's infinite beings, infinite things that can happen for a player to
Even that game
experience.
you're saying.
Mm.
Like that we could learn something new from playing that game that we've never learned in any reality you're saying?
Right. Because there's infinite
Could be
chances
right.
that can happen.
Yeah.
If there's infinite versions of us interacting with infinite versions of this no man's sky
Yeah.
in infinite experiences, that's
Yeah.
how the nature of fractals work, right? Is you have so many different levels with multidimensional cells at every fractal level.
Uh, No, you're right.
That's
Honestly, you're right. I think you're right. I think it is my ego, and I think it makes me anxious. Either way, this is a meaningful experience. But yes, how far up does it go and how far down does it go? I don't know.
that's why it makes me think like
Uh,
I mean, I can just skip to it now. There was a question I had where you and Jason were talking about circles,
yeah.
and it made me think of this kind of thing. Oh yeah, so this is what I wrote. I heard you and Jason talking about how there are no real circles, only smaller and smaller cubic
Okay.
pixels.
Yeah.
Yeah, which made me think that based on the color of our chakras, which light up based on our emotional state, we are basically like pixels on an RGB screen that are
Hmm.
changing color in a video game.
Hmm.
What if we are powering something higher dimensional with our emotions that are the color of the chakras? Do you think it's possible we are performing some task or product for higher dimensional beings, like in the Rick and Morty car battery episode, if you ever saw that?
No, what is it? Tell me.
Oh, it's my favorite episode of Rick and Morty.
What does
I
it
can't
have to do with
recommend it enough.
powering it?
He made a microverse,
Uh-huh.
a micro universe, as to be his car battery
Uh-huh.
until intelligent life formed on a planet. Then he
Uh-huh.
went to that planet, like Rick did, the scientist. You know Rick and Morty, the
Yeah.
scientist,
Uh-huh.
and the
Uh-huh.
kid. Okay, and he went to the planet and convinced them to use these like energy conversion boxes
Uh-huh.
and to generate energy in their society. And
Uh-huh.
the energy would like, keep their society running. But
Yeah.
Rick was siphoning off most of it to power his, spaceship car. And
Oh,
then
that's
Morty was like,
it.
and Morty was like, "This is wrong, Rick." And he's like, "What? They made a society. They're working for each other. They have their own currency, and we're just siphoning off some of their energy, right, or a majority of their energy." And
Yes.
then Morty's like, "Rick, that just sounds like slavery with more steps."
Yeah.
And I think about that all the time.
Yeah.
That this whole reality where we
Yeah.
think we have a purpose and we're
Right.
accomplishing this one thing, but then, oh, the trauma, oh, I feel this way, oh, I feel that way. Are there other entities or technologies that are feeding off that energy from our energy we're giving off that's used to make a product in a higher dimension?
I mean, listen.
Or,
Maybe. I mean, I'll put it this way. That's not something I would want to believe because it would freak me out. But I do
right,
it's very if I was to think this is my once again, we're in a world of beliefs. If my belief would be our emotions are powering these higher dimensional creatures, I would love to think it's for their highest learning so they could learn where they are, where thoughts turn to things right away, where they materials right away. Maybe they want to, expand their consciousness just like we do and somehow they're learning from us. I feel like I mean there's no way to know, but I feel like that it is for experience and learning. But yeah, I mean we could just be pairing a Rick and Morty. I think it's the absurdity of it that actually is funny. And I think for me what it comes down to, and this is just like I think the movie where the guy's on the boat. I don't know if it's called Lion. Did you see Lion? Or
no, I didn't.
Life of Pi?
No, I heard it was good though.
Think maybe it's Life of Pi where he's on the boat with all these animals, and it turns out that his parents died, and no, people thought that he was making the animals like that he was saying is basically his dead. He envisioned his dead parents the whole boat ride as his animals because I don't think he was open to the reality of what could really be that his parents were dead the whole time on this boat this guy was stranded on. And basically, at the end of the movie, the guy goes, "Well, what is it? Were you with these animals that saved you, or was it you just your dead parents?" And he goes,
Oh, there's actual physical dead parents from the boat.
"Yeah, sorry, I have a hard way to explain
Oh
it.
my God,
Sorry."
that's kind of just you telling me that is kind of hilarious. It's
Yes,
terrible, but it's kind
it
of
is.
like,
But at the end of it, the newscaster asks him because basically like, this guy survives like this whole like ocean trek or whatever, and really his parents are dead or whatever. And we see all these awesome animals that are like have saved him throughout this journey, and he gets, finally to land and he's saved. And the news guy is like something like, well, which is it? did these animal did like a ape and an elephant really on a boat save you, or like did you just make it all up and you couldn't deal with your parents being dead on the boat with you? And he goes, which one sounds better than you? Or which one sounds better? Which one would you believe?
Hmm.
Which one would you want to believe? Basically, we don't freaking know and we'll never know. So like I think it's just like what resonates with us and what we believe is what makes this life meaningful. Like,
It's whatever helps us get through the experience.
and we'll see
Right.
when we leave this life. And all I
Right.
know is that this experience to me feels meaningful and it feels, beautiful. And like there is something learning for me in a meaningful way. And I feel that in my heart. And I'm going to go with that.
I agree with you, and I'm always relently positive, but I always think about
What?
things like, for example, I found that funny that the idea that
Yeah,
is the animal, because I only knew it was like animals on a boat with him, and now you're telling me it could have been his dead parents.
it
That's
was.
so absurd and crazy and dark that it's funny. Just like
Mhm.
people ask me, like, Michael, how could you make a 9/11 joke? I'm like, I'm laughing at the absurdity at
Sturdy.
how terrible something could be, which
Yeah,
makes me think
yeah,
if other beings are in higher dimensions,
yeah,
they can look at this dimension and observe us,
yeah.
right? Just like we can observe an ant colony or see our shadow from our third dimensional hand that's in
Or the
two
sin.
dimensions. And I'm like, are they viewing? But so, right. We have distance from 9/11. I have distance from that movie. So it can be funny to me because I'm not experiencing it. So
Yeah.
are they laughing at me in pain? Are they laughing at us in pain? Like, oh, haha, they're going through this thing, but I have enough distance that it could be funny. And it's a comedy movie to higher dimensional beings. And that is,
I
uh,
think
you
you're
know,
I think you're almost spot on, actually. I think it's more in a way a grandparent would laugh at a kid that fell, or like, I don't know if you've played The Sims, but when I play video games, or like The Sims, when they sometimes when I light them on fire, when the past, when people, but when you do things to your characters or they make mistakes, I laugh in a way where I'm like, oh, if you only knew like what real reality was, like everything's fine, you're gonna be fine, like this is not as real as you think. Everything's okay.
right. But still, they're still going through that horrible experience,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, totally. And
which
so it's
is
so real for
crazy to
them.
think about, which made me think of, you know, whenever I make a joke or think about or I'm watching a comedy movie, I had that perspective of like, oh, those characters, if let's say, for example, I've been thinking about this since I was a small child,
Yeah,
is that because I've always thought about the multiverse since I was three, as far back as I can remember. I've had like what we're talking about, I've been thinking about since I was like 3 years old.
yeah,
So I'm like, somewhere, this movie I'm watching, that is real. That is going on somewhere. So I'm laughing at genuine pain, the
mhm,
genuine pain of other beings, which is strange. And yet
yeah,
I have an extremely dark sense of humor.
yeah,
So
yeah,
it's so weird to think about. But then again, we have like America's Funniest Home Videos where we laugh at actual real people's pain. And like,
yeah.
it's such a
Survival.
strange,
It's
reality is so strange. It's so
it is strange. I will say,
odd.
I know I think, as I said, I think we're in a meaningful like plasma simulation with consciousness. I would beg to differ right now. For instance, like our video games, like The Sims or whatever, No Man's Sky, because I'm consciousness playing it, but that's not actually conscious in an intuitive way, if that makes sense. Like not yet,
Mhm.
right? That there's not consciousness yet. I still think there's a difference than like these beings that are attached to us in like a more meaningful way. Like I think these beings maybe have like video games they play, but that's why I think we're more in like a spiritual, meaningful, benevolent simulation. I think let's see, and hopefully we see in our lifetime once if we're able to inject real consciousness, real higher consciousness, like where our conscious, where this higher intelligence, this fifth dimensional consciousness comes from, not survival consciousness, intuition, imagination, like that kind of consciousness that can dream like us. If we inject that in a video game, I would love to see how that gameplay actually works out and if we make a meaningful connection with that. And I think there's a difference, and that starts to like display the importance of a connection and meaningful connection versus like us laughing at a video game that's not consciousness inside.
So you're saying injecting consciousness, like one of us goes into a video game.
Well, no, if like right now, like AI is not conscious, like
Mm.
consciousness in a non-survival way, like in our type of way, consciousness is dreaming, it's intuition, it's imagination. Like there's many things that
Mm.
like, these things in the game don't have. They are actual simulations.
Oh,
They
so
are
you're saying when it gets that to that level,
when we
right?
can actually have
Yeah.
AI be
Okay.
conscious and have games
Mm.
where there's a real consciousness we're creating, that is the next level I think that Jason's talking about too, where that's when whatever created us, we're creating a new one. That's the singularity, the point of singularity, where there's this new
Mm.
event horizon of this new world. I would love that to happen in our lifetime because I think that for the first time, which I think will happen in our lifetime, that will connect how these beings really feel about us, and we'll feel that for the first time. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Imagine having basically if these beings come, a being becomes conscious with the power of imagination in a simulation, and it can create anything within its own simulation. That means we created a god,
Yeah, it means we
right?
created mini
That
us.
would, right, a fractal god.
And
That's
I think we might care about them a little more than you're thinking and won't laugh as much because they're not games. They're our creation.
right. But then the thing about the diversity of people,
Mhm.
some people would be, care, oh, look how awesome this is. Other people are like, let's fuck with it.
We'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Um,
Actually, no, you're right. You're right. So that's survival consciousness. So me and you, like, let's say we have this higher consciousness, this intelligence. We would never do that. Doesn't mean you can't laugh and like play jokes. Like the universe plays jokes on us. Look at us. We're like, what the fuck, universe? My point
I
is,
swear to God, it does like a
it does.
poignant, specific jokes,
Yeah.
like
I mean,
genuine.
and the bad
Some
shit that
playful ones,
happens.
and some like other ones are like, fuck. That's you have a dark sense of humor too. It's like,
Yes. Well, also
uh,
think about our grandparents. Like they see children scrape their knee. They see parents, you see your children go through horrific things and you can't help them. You know they have to learn how to go through it on their own, just like they know, like our parents, we have to go through these really painful things and they can't help us. Even if they wanted to, they can't. We have to help them help us. And my point is with these where you're saying yes, there's evil people in the world. There's I would call it fearful people, and then there's people like us. And we all have bad and good in us, right? Like what you're saying, those people running that how you're basically saying how would those people feel about these conscious beings? They'd probably like try to like freaking kill them or whatever. That's why I think those beings they got rid of that for the most part. I'm sure maybe there's some outliers up there, I don't know, but like they got rid of
mhm.
that. And I think in order for us to reach that real consciousness, that real singularity, that real making this new life, we all have to evolve in that way. So I hope that happens within our lifetime.
I thought that too. That it's like higher dimensional means good, but I
Yeah,
realized higher dimensional just means another level on top because we're higher dimensional to a simulation that we made.
we're
That doesn't mean we're
powerful.
all good.
Yeah.
So I used to equate higher dimensional with, oh, in order to attain that, you have to be a saint and all this stuff. And
Yeah.
now I'm not so sure.
I would call it, but I would say benevolent. Like, and I'm talking about like higher dimensional as in fifth dimensional and above. Because fourth dimensional, that's where you got like straight up what someone would call evil or fear and good. And those things, we can get into that. That's like the trickster realm of plasma and all that shit's here.
Fourth,
Yeah, fourth
fourth
dimensional. And
dimensional.
that's in our reality. But with what I think you're talking about, like fifth dimensional and above, like these higher beings, whatever's in this black hole and the singularity, whatever. I believe that they are at a state of benevolence. Once again, it doesn't mean they make all the right decisions. It doesn't mean some of them are more trickstery than others, but I think they're at some level of understanding where they can't intentionally inflict pain on us. Like that's part of our life, but I would say that none of those things have fear in them anymore. And I think
Hmm.
we have to get that out of ourselves, which is starting to happen that's why I wonder, and I'm curious, these are all questions we're talking about. I don't know the answers, but like, will we reach AI having consciousness, or is there some greater thing at play where we need to be at a higher state of consciousness ourselves to be able to create that? And will that happen in our lifetime? And are we chasing a red herring? Because that will never happen until we work on our own consciousness, which is what I'm trying to get people to see.
So it sounds like we're almost being produced, right? Like we're being produced to eliminate fear to achieve a new level of this holographic reality
Yeah, that is how it feels.
and or simulation. And if it's truly a simulation, what if we're just plugged in to this virtual reality and we're completely safe outside the simulation, but our consciousness is in a training simulator in order to achieve something in that higher dimension?
I think that that's not out of the question.
Like I had a dream once where I was gonna ask you what you think dreams are too. I
Yeah.
had a dream once where I was at Portland State before I had gone to Portland State, and I was at college age, and I took off a VR headset, and it looked like a slightly futuristic Portland, and I could completely walk perfectly fine. I felt everything. I lived like a 3 month entire summer break during college. It was like a three genuine months of life. I had
Yeah.
an apartment. I think I had a cat or something. It kind of looks like some. I don't have a cat, but I
Yeah.
see tons of cat videos on TikTok. But
Yeah.
um, it kind of looked like this apartment a little bit, except in Portland. And I lived a life, and I could walk. I remember walking so distinctly. And everyone I know, whenever they have dreams of me, they say, "I've never seen you in a wheelchair. You're always walking, always,"
Huh.
which is interesting. And I remember I went back to college
Yeah.
after like the summer break, and these people said, "Okay, you have to go back in the simulation." I'm like, "I'm not going back in that thing." And
Yeah.
I remember so I can feel being grabbed, and they're like, "You have to go. You have to finish this
Uh-huh.
training simulator thing." I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "I'm not going back. You're not going to make me." And they physically forced me to go back into the simulation. I remember the feeling of being pushed, put in it, and put the headset on as I'm like screaming no.
That was a
And I
dream.
woke up. That was a dream. It was like a 3 month full long,
Dream.
almost pretty much lucid. And I don't lucid dream that much,
Yeah.
but that was like the closest I've had to a real lucid full memory
I
dream.
mean, I think that's crazy. I think that's interesting.
And I still remember it too all these years later.
I mean, it sounds I definitely think that was a real experience. I don't think that was your imagination. My question is like, I wonder, is that another timeline, or is that like
Hmm.
where we're from? Like that's really my I would ask you to probably feel into your heart and ask your heart what that experience was, and I think it would tell you. The same way as I think that like the answers are in your heart about like what is beyond, like I feel so confident about it. Not like I know everything, and I'm sure my ego can be wrapped up in many of these things because I'm a human being, but like when I leave the fear and I really go into my heart, like I know this is a meaningful place, and I know that something whatever's above us is benevolent. My fear says that's not true sometimes, but my heart says that, and I trust that feeling because I feel like that's where we're connected, if that makes sense.
That's what my heart has always taught me too.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking
Too
about more and
smart
more
for your own
recently.
good.
What do you say?
You're just too smart for your own good. Your thoughts are
Oh,
getting all crazy.
well, so yeah, I feel that in my heart.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh,
Sorry.
about like you feel in your heart that it's good, but you've been thinking lately that all these other things that we might
I
be
forgot.
in
Sorry.
relation, or the people might be like, but I think you were just saying basically you feel in your heart that they're good, but you've been thinking, it seems like you've been thinking more like, oh, well, what if it's this or what if it's that, right?
I was going to say, like, because I know this is a holographic illusion, a simulation, right? And everything's so convincingly real. How much, and I know that we're programmed for the first 7 years of our life, and
Yeah,
we are programmable
sure.
beings.
Yeah.
What if I'm just programmed to believe in my
That.
heart that this is a good thing, that everything I'm doing is meaningful,
Mhm.
and then I'm like, well, that's an endless rabbit hole. And the only way, again, to get through life is to really be positive about the experiences, believe there is meaning to this,
Yeah.
and look at that's the only thing we really can do,
In my
right?
framework with plasma, you could absolutely find that out. What I would do is set your intention, which it seems like you would do have this intention of you want to know the truth. Because I don't know about you, I want to know the
Hmm.
truth. Even if it is what you're saying and as like maybe scared as that could make me, my intention has always been the truth, and I trust that, and I trust that that goes beyond programming. Once again, that could be an illusion, but I trust that if I'm right about how plasma and consciousness work, and that plasma is programmable but also reprogrammable, and when we heal ourselves and we open our beliefs up and we can reprogram it with new beliefs, and there's that liminal space in between. When I'm in that liminal space, first I meet fear, and then I meet like a boundless love. And that is what has showed me what that is, as has many like blissful meditative experiences. And I think if you program your plasma bubble and tell it, I want to know the truth no matter what it is, show me the goddamn truth in this life, and you believe that with all your heart, you will see it. And please let me know what you find out. I'll
Okay.
let you know what I find out. But my goal is truth, and I'm being led in this direction, and I have to trust that.
Hmm. I agree. I'm definitely all about truth, and
Yeah.
no matter what it is, yeah, I want to know.
Yeah. It doesn't mean we can't ask these questions. I mean, you asking these questions, even as like much anxiety as they could give someone, or like fear they could instill, like at the same time, like you're stretching my brain, you're making me think, and like I
Not to, sorry, not to give you anxiety or anything.
no, no, I
I know.
think it's good. It means it's growth. It's not anxiety. It's more like, it can instill fear when you meet these questions. But once again, if you push through the fear and you want to know the truth, for me, it's never been scary when I push through that fear. I always do see a truth, and it isn't bad. The only bad stuff is really what my 3D consciousness makes up. So maybe
Hmm.
get more into the feeling and really let go of the mind and get into feeling. And I think you'll feel all good stuff.
I, it could just be that everything about this is love, and fear is just in this 3D avatar self and the illusion here to keep us engaged in the video game. That could be very well.
Oh, it
Yeah, that
is.
makes sense too.
That's what's kept me engaged. But the thing is, the one keeping you engaged is your survival. With what I'm
Mm,
saying, with real intense feeling, I would maybe look at yourself in your life, at least for me, with as much trauma as I've been through and as open as I am, there are some feelings that are intense that I've not been willing to face. And those feelings are intense pain, by the way. They're intense emotional
mm,
pain. They're so intense that I didn't want to believe the reality I was in as a kid, because that's how intense they were. And I'm finding I'm coming up against those. And as
mm.
painful as they are, I'm noticing what comes after that is like the most expansive love and truth. And I feel like I'm breaking out of that fear and simulation and like seeing glimmers of that real reality. So
Hmm.
I think I really do believe I do believe that. And I believe it's important to be curious, like what we're doing. But I think if you, it's very important to get into the feeling and let the thoughts go. And then the real truth, I think, arises.
I agree. Yeah. I'm just curious, like when you're going through trying to heal all this trauma and stuff, like for me, it literally felt when I'm trying to face all this stuff, it felt almost like being physically like beaten up, like punched as you're trying to get through everything. Like I would have images pop in my head, like literally like I was being beaten up trying to get through everything. And then after you get through all the trauma
Yeah.
and heal yourself, it kind of makes you feel invincible because you've been through so much shit that again, you find smaller stuff funny. You're like, oh, this would have sent me into a spiral. This would have destroyed me. And then
Yeah.
again, you had that distance where it's like tragedy is now comedy because you've overcome it.
Yes. My experience, and I'm curious about yours, has been that I've gone through these things once, and I've realized now in my 30s that I'm having to relive it again to heal it again. And I didn't think that would have to happen, but for me, it's happening. At the
Yeah.
same time, like, yes, I can laugh at things that would have felt like so traumatic a few years ago, but at another level, like, I do feel like I'm re-experiencing it with a new awareness right now and maybe re-experiencing things that like I blocked out because they were too painful when I was going through it.
Mhm.
If that makes
And
sense.
that's when it enters your subconscious mind, right? Is when you can't process it consciously, then it gets embedded in your
Yeah.
subconscious mind.
Yeah,
Hmm.
so I'm having, and I don't know if you've had any moments like that, but I'm having things pop up that I'm having to heal that I didn't realize even needed healing because I didn't remember
Uh,
them.
right. And for me, I noticed
Yeah.
it's when I finally get very calm and things are going good that then those subconscious things come up. It's like
Same.
when you're finally regulated and you're like, things are
Oh,
good.
yeah.
And then you're like,
Then I'm
remember
gonna
this?
no, every time
It's-
things get good
yeah.
still, by the way, and this is something I'm actually actively working on because life is starting
Mm,
to get good. That's what I'm saying. I meet those fears, whether it's thinking about the universe in like these ways, or whether for me, I think automatically I'm gonna get sick. Whatever I ate today, I think I'm poisoned.
uh-huh.
Or
Yeah.
I'm like, I have an itch on me. Do I have cancer? Is this weird pimple an itch? Like I automatically go to death when things are going good. Because I'm not used to, same as you probably, I'm not used to functioning on a level in life where things are good. I've always
Hmm.
been hit with pain or death or fear or a betrayal, and it's like now in life when I'm actually safe and I'm okay, I don't know how to live that way. So I'm learning.
Hmm. Do you
Yeah.
think it's because we're still learning how to receive goodness, or do you think it's because of the genuine duality nature of this reality? Where if once you have a high, you know it's going to knock you down to a low, so you have a high again, or is it just like I need to just learn to feel this good all the time and accept it?
That, because I still think you can go through bad and good things and feel this level of awareness. And I think in the beginning it does feel more like a roller coaster. And I think maybe me and you are both there, but I think you do, from what I've heard, at least from people too, you do get to a point where whatever's thrown at you, you're still open to abundance and you're still in a state of peace.
Hmm.
Even if it is something that feels like, like a tragedy or a death or even you get sick. You're like there's some level of surrender where I'm still kind of like fighting things sometimes.
Hmm. And probably you probably feel this too. It's like because you have such a sense of purpose, and it
Mhm.
almost feels like you've already accomplished it, and you're going through the motions of it. That maybe you don't worry like it feels terrible in the moment as you're trying to go through stuff, but you know you did get through it. Like for me, I know I feel like I can't fully die because even though I've died many times and come back,
Yeah.
it seemed like, did you get the message yet, Michael? You're going to do this. Even if you don't
Oh
want to
yeah.
right now, you're going to do this.
Yeah, you'll be
So
fine.
does it seem like you're almost being reset or re-guided when you're meeting these walls and not the end of the world? Because even though it feels bad in the moment, you know I've actually already accomplished what I need to. It's set in stone, it's done, and
Oh,
I'm just going through the motions.
yeah, but I don't listen to that enough yet. I'm very stubborn. My fear completely takes over. And that's literally what I'm working on because, like, yes, that voice is so there, but it's still so covered and wrapped in. Because right now, I really feel like I'm at the precipice of meeting my deepest fears because I'm so right on the edge of like opening to that expansion because I'm seeing it coming and like I'm seeing glimmers of it. And when you're right on that new horizon, you meet like, the worst things. And that's, what it's my life path. It's what's happening to me. And I do have that knowing that everything's gonna be okay, but in the moment when I'm having those moments of fear, I'm not listening to that.
Uh,
My
I'm
therapist
just
wants
curious.
me to have to ground myself.
I was going to ask you what makes you feel grounded because this
Yeah.
is a lot of information,
Yeah.
but you mentioned life path. What is your life path? I'm just curious
Like
if you've
what?
done the
Yeah, because I
numerology.
know it. That's the thing. I know my future self. Like, I actually know what I'm gonna do, and it's scary to like talk about because I don't want someone to think I'm being egotistical. But like, I know that on this earth, my destiny in this lifetime is to connect other beings of consciousness. It's to connect ourselves and other timelines. It's to connect ourselves with other beings of consciousness and other planets and other dimensions. I think I'm gonna be one of the people that does that by teaching plasma whether it's some stuff in technology, yes, that will happen, and then it's some stuff that's just with our own consciousness and learning how to navigate communication from these realms. I really think
Hmm.
that's my purpose, 1,000,000%, to do that, to open up interdimensional, interreality, intertimeline communication in an awareness, in an aware state that will be achieved in this life. And I think I'm one of the people that will do that. And
I
I
know
know,
you and Jason talk about how
yeah.
multidimensional travel is all possible and stuff like that. And but I was curious, like, what's your actual, if you know, your life path number, if you've ever
Oh,
looked that up?
sorry. Of course I
Oh
got
no,
it.
it's okay. No,
It's
but I wanted to know that too.
a 9.
A
What's your?
9.
Mhm.
I'm a 1.
Oh, whoa.
What's the 9 one?
I believe that 9 is kind of like, at the end of something, but it's like, like a leader.
Completion, right?
Yeah. So I feel like
Completion.
yeah,
Okay, so 1 and then 9,
yeah.
right? That's interesting then.
But
Yeah.
1 is still funny because it's like it is a beginning, but how many times have you been that 9, right? So it's like for you, I'm curious, like what path are you just beginning in your many times being through all those numbers? So I'm curious what this life will bring for you. That is it sounds like you're going to meet something very fresh and new in this lifetime, which will be exciting to hear what that is.
Yeah, I never thought about it like that I've been through all of them and
Oh,
now I'm a 1 again. I
yeah.
didn't think about that. That's
Oh, that's 100% what you are. Because I know I'm a 9. Like I know my last freaking 1,000 lives have been leading up to this plasma, like interdimensional communication.
uh
Like for you, I feel like you just completed something and now you're back starting something new. And I'm so curious, like what that is for you.
so that voice I told you about when I was younger, and again, I don't want to sound arrogant or anything like
You're
that.
not. How about this? We're
I've
not.
always had, okay, thank you. I've always had like, that was one of my biggest fears is I always had people around me kind of like dimming my light and stuff,
Of course.
and I let it affect me. And
Not more.
I always had a big fear of being arrogant or
Same.
perceived arrogant, right?
Same. Well,
Even though
let
we
me
have
tell
like natural talents, right? We have
Yeah.
natural talents, and then everyone's like, "You think you're better than everyone else, Michael?" And so, you know,
Mom said that to me and I had to tell her,
yeah,
Mom, it's time to let me shine.
exactly. It's important to be your most authentic self. It's so important,
Yeah.
and we should all be that way. We should all
Everyone.
talk about each other in that way too, and
Yeah.
uplift each other, not tear each other down,
You
which
should
is the
all be the
norm, which is
sun.
so strange.
Yes.
Yeah,
You're right. But what was the voice telling you that you
yeah.
were is right now?
Specifically, I remember in 3rd and 4th grade just telling me like to look for examples of leadership because later in my life, I'm going to be like a main leader of this new earth. And like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
and
I
and,
believe it.
and back then, whenever I tried to be a leader and listen to the voice, it didn't work out. And it felt like I was almost
Same.
forcing it because I was listening to it. And
Mhm.
again, only when I let go of it,
Yeah.
then all the all
Exactly.
the times were like that's when I just naturally became a leader. And I
Yeah.
saw everyone follow suit and I
Yeah.
didn't force anything. And I saw everyone around me actually drastically change their behavior.
Yeah.
And I realized I can't force things to change. I have to be the example and embody it. And then others naturally
Follow.
follow that better way, you know?
Yeah. Well, they'll
Yeah.
resonate with your truth. Like if for most of our life, our truth has been, well, I know I'm a leader, but I'm don't feel like one and I'm a bit insecure and I don't know if I'm worthy of this. It's like when you step in your power like you are now, it's like you're going to be treated like one because you're in your truth. And back then
Mhm.
our truth was more like and we're by the way, I think that's reflected right now in our journey. Our truth is like we're almost there. And I think, there's eyes on both of us. And I think that when we both fully accept that and feel proudly completely without saying, I don't want to be this, but this, I think that's when, in a few years' time, we will be those people, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah. Let's see here. I know we've
It's
gone
fine.
almost an hour
I'm
and a half.
I'm
Okay.
happy to answer any questions.
Let's see. It was kind
Uh,
of cool. We skipped around. It was just a natural conversation. Sometimes I overstructure stuff. I don't know.
Same.
Helps me prepare. Yeah. So yeah.
Well,
I was going to ask you too. I don't have this written down, but like your videos are you produce so much content.
yeah.
And Just like, how does she do it? Because when
I,
I editing stuff takes me forever,
yeah,
and putting stuff together, and I don't know if it's called executive dysfunction or whatever, but like,
yeah,
I'm kind of a perfectionist, and
yeah.
takes me, yeah.
Well, I
How do you do so much?
sure. I mean, it is quality, not quantity, and I learned that with more time and wisdom. So, like, I think what you're doing is just as impactful, obviously, even if you can't get it out every day. I think like what affords me the ability to put it out so much is that I don't edit anything and I do everything stream of consciousness. So once I get an idea, I freaking record it. I'm like, whatever I say, it's my truth. It might be a mistake, it's
Hmm.
might not, but it's what I'm feeling and I'm gonna freaking say it. And what I know my truth is a portal and someone's gonna hear truth in it, and that's all that matters to me. So I
Hmm.
just record. It takes like anywhere to make a TikTok from 10 to 30 minutes because I might be still researching as I'm recording it and going back and forth,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. And then I'm done for the day. But I will say, like, all my social media, I probably spend around 2 hours a day on like YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, like LinkedIn, like all of that. And I'm hoping that eventually, obviously, I know that I want a platform and I want people to know what I'm saying. And that's the only vehicle to do that. I can't just speak to dead air. So, like,
Hmm.
as stressful as it is, I feel like it's worth it. But with that said, if plasma is what I really think it is, I think I've structured my life that way. And I think it is a bit of a detriment to me. I think that it makes me a little bit anxious and tense, and I would like to enjoy life more and be like outside more and not spend as much time creating content, but creating more meaningful content that I maybe put out once or twice a week. And
Hmm.
it's not all the time. But once again, I hope I can do that when I get to a level where I have an audience. But until I feel like I'm at that level, I just felt like this was the only way to do it. But once again, I've created that own reality.
Hmm.
And with that said, I would like to now, get to a place where I'm making meaningful content maybe a few times a week instead of every day. And then I can repurpose portions of it for my social media. But at the same time, if I have an idea, I'm going to record it. I just want to do what feels good.
Hmm.
I think I've got myself too much in a box where I'm too tense, where I'm like too worried about putting stuff out. So like personally, that's what I'm working on right now is like quality over quantity and not being fearful that if I don't put something out every day, I'm gonna like, not get to where I need to be because I know that's not true. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
No, I feel you definitely. But I mean, the way you do it though in your stream of consciousness,
Yeah.
you've had so much practice now that it seems
Yeah.
it's a professional stream of consciousness. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Thank you. Yeah.
You built the skill really well.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's one thing I need to work. I used to broadcast on Twitch for like 10 years, and I
Yeah.
built the skill of like live streaming and, reading comments, playing a game,
Mhm.
being funny all at the same time and stuff.
Yeah.
And I have that, but doing it recording for some reason is so different.
Huh.
Not, I need the audience there to
You
like play off of. If I'm just I can record and do a performative thing. Like I have a podcast where I read my Substack
Mhm.
writing and stories and stuff where I plan it out. But like, I don't know, doing the stream of consciousness just with my phone, I can't even figure out how to do like change the pictures all the time and do the,
know what
it
I'm
seems like
realizing?
overwhelming.
I have a channeling for you. I
Oh,
think I'm
sure.
sensing a theme here, and it's the same theme I'm working on. I think I'm sensing a theme of letting go and surrendering. So like with your structuring, the TikTok, like if you just record yourself for 10 minutes or like put it like you have so much to say. I think it's pretty obvious. You're wise beyond your years. I feel like I should be interviewing you. I feel like you just like wake up to that fact if you don't already. I think you know. I think it's more like our fear of shining in a way or like saying the wrong thing. But if you just let yourself be on TikTok and record and say whatever, if you just like I don't know, pray or set the intention every day. Just if I let me say what's true today and record yourself for 10 minutes, don't edit it. Just say what you want. Like, hey, this is what I'm realizing today. Like that's going to resonate with people and that's different than
Mm,
this content. So if you let go a little, let yourself free flow in your own special sauce in your own way, I guarantee you if you just do that a few times a day or even once every day, you'll gain a following from doing that. I think that like It's not about like, for me at least, with time I learned to put videos behind me, do a green screen, whatever, and you can experiment, but like the main thing is you have to do it. So I would recommend just recording yourself every day and gain the habit of it and letting yourself be as cringy, and you'll
Hmm.
build yourself up in the same way I did.
Hmm. It's definitely I can tell there's a fear there. I
Yeah.
just
That's fine.
getting the motion, but I had the same fear about starting YouTube,
And then you
you know,
did,
and then I
yeah.
did that, and then yeah, so
And it's all divine timing. So for whatever reason, you're supposed to do it this way. And now I think maybe you're having this inkling of wanting to do it this way too. And I implore you to dive into that.
okay, I'll try it.
Do it.
Okay.
Do it for 30 days. Record. Forget likes, forget validation, forget comments, forget anything. Have fun and record yourself every day on TikTok, even if it's a minute, 15 seconds. Just put a video out every day for 30 days and see what happens.
I was thinking about releasing like short little jokes I write or something. But
If
oh,
that's what makes
here's
you
the other
happy,
reason I had a fear
yeah.
about doing it is because TikTok used to take down all my videos, like my stand-up jokes, even if I censored the F word and stuff. If I censored the word fuck, it would still take it down. And then I'd see other videos saying the most like racist shit. That's like how are they getting away with this stuff?
I've
Like I don't get the so I didn't want to get my channel taken down because I got like all the way to the point of one more and you're done. I think that's what sparked it because I
yeah.
was going to try it and
Uh-huh.
then they're going to take me down. So,
Then forget TikTok. Do it on Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts. Do it somewhere where they aren't censoring at all, really,
mhm.
actually.
Probably Reels, YouTube Shorts, they took me down too, almost. Yeah, YouTube, Jimmy Fallon specifically. I had one episode. I did a
Uh-huh.
podcast with my friend Ryan,
Uh-huh.
and we made fun of. This was a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
They did like they called it Masked Christmas, where they
Mhm.
did a music video with Ariana Grande
Uh-huh.
wearing masks, telling everyone to get the shot, and
Uh-huh.
they're singing in masks, and it was just absurd. And we
Uh-huh.
made fun of it, and Jimmy Fallon got the video taken down, and then I got it reinstated, and he
Uh-huh.
got it taken down again and got like several strikes on my channel. And I'm like, fuck.
Okay,
Just for making
well,
fun of Jimmy. And it wasn't like offensive either. It was just making fun of him, you know, a
well,
little
did
bit.
they say you mean like coronavirus masks or whatever?
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm sure that they at the time, were like, that's friggin' Here's the point. The truth is there is some weird control on this earth. Like there are certain jokes, if you do want a big platform, you can't touch until you get the big platform. So that's
Hmm.
something maybe to think about and just make every joke you can, and you have to have the patience with letting yourself get bigger before you can make those jokes. And that's something I realized. Like I used to comment on something I'm not even going to talk about right now that had to do with like the science community and energy and like things I believed in, and I got shadow banned so quick, and I was like, there are powers that be, and I'm gonna not fight them, and I'm gonna shut my mouth, and when I'm powerful enough, I'm happy to have
Hmm.
that dialogue again with them. But I personally felt like I could see now I was going about it the wrong way. So
It's
yeah,
a smart way to do it. It's a smart, and I thought about doing that, but I'm so,
I am a rebel as well.
yeah, I can't resist. I can't
That's just
resist
the
being myself,
same.
doing the right thing because it's the right thing, being your most authentic self.
That's
And I'm
what
like, fuck them, and then I'll,
think the same,
yeah.
but I think there's some wisdom that comes into play where and I've had wise people tell me this, and I've also said, yeah, right, I'm gonna be me. Like you're an idiot. They were like, Dana,
Mm.
play the game even a little. Like you're never gonna get a ticket to the game if you don't play the game. And now
Uh,
I'm seeing, I mean, there's so many people even that have gotten murdered. It's like they didn't know how to play the game. So it's like play the game a little.
mhm,
Because I'm not against the government. I'm against corruption. I'm not against the
mhm.
government, but I will play the game all day if I can have a seat at the table discussing things that will change the world. I won't do anything against my conscience or against my values, but sometimes I will shut my mouth so I have the platform to open my mouth down the road.
One thing you said that I knew we were very similar. It's a very specific thing. Was you said in one of your videos that you only want to be sponsored by companies that align with you and
Yeah.
that are not corrupt or you just feel a bad vibe from. And I haven't really met too many other people that are like that. They'll
Yeah,
sell out immediately.
I
And
know.
in my heart, I'm like, I can't be. I had even some people reach out. I'm like, I just can't. I can't do it. I just won't do it.
I wish I could because I'd be so much more rich.
Right? I know. Right?
I think
There's
we'll
something there in us that's just
yeah,
yeah. It's we
it's the
can't.
feeling. It's the
Hmm.
that's by the way, it's your higher self going. That's the benevolence I'm talking about, going through feeling.
Hmm.
And that's why I know that these good people are watching over us. But for me, it's like, yeah, it's a feeling, and I also have the knowing that although I might not be, I do feel like I'm rolling in riches, especially in the future, and I feel very wealthy. But as far as like
Mm.
money specifically, it's not that I'm not abundant. It's just I have lessons to learn with managing money, that there's a reason that I haven't had all this money come in. And I know that will be rewarded, is what I'm saying, by the right companies, but you have to go through rejecting a lot of the bad ones to get to that place of abundance, in my
Hmm.
opinion.
I
So,
agree. I
saying
agree.
no will pay off, is what I'm saying.
What is the best way to manifest with plasma
Hmm.
and to
Great.
build a relationship with it?
Yeah. So their manifestation is dead. I made a TikTok on it. The best way to manifest is to be yourself. And then you don't have to manifest. Because if you're being your highest aligned self, everything will come to you. And there's no worry about what will come. All you know is that you're trusting yourself to make the right choice with your heart and soul in the moment. You're playing, you're experimenting, and you have complete faith that everything you want is coming your way. And that doesn't mean you can't like I have a vision board. I know I'll have a house in Montana. I know I'll have a crystal bathtub that views the stars, but I don't think about it every day because I know it's coming. I don't need to manifest it. It's more like I have this vision board. I saw it once. If I look at it a few times, great. But there's no effort needed on my part to get that. What is needed on my part is to make choices from my heart and soul, because the plasma knows I want it and it's taking me there, and I have to trust that that chariot is taking me there, and I'm co-creating it taking me there by making the choices with my heart, not my ego. So the best way to manifest is to just be yourself, and then you kick back and let it all happen.
So you still set your intention though.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
Okay.
it's not like you don't do action. That's what I'm saying. You're co-creating here. So as much as I'm kicking back, I'm making aligned choices with my heart and soul.
Mm.
That's getting me there. Every choice is a movement towards that thing. I don't know how to get there, so I'm
Right.
trusting that my choices will meet the vision, if that makes any sense. But it's not
So
manifesting in the same way where there's like scripting and effort, if that makes any sense.
mhm. So
Yeah.
I'm just clarifying that you set the intention, you know it's meant for you, and you take aligned actions. Or
Yeah.
do you believe it was always meant for you on
Yeah.
this life path anyways?
That's kind
So
of what I think. Yeah.
okay. So
I
it's
think
more
there's no.
predetermined.
Yes, but no. So I think it's a paradox once again. I think some of it has always been here and is always meant for me. And then I'm all about discovery and creating fresh new things. So there might not be, that's why I'm open and I don't like just manifesting. Like I'm open to the fact that something completely new beyond my consciousness right now, beyond all of my selves consciousness, beyond God's consciousness, can just come out of nowhere, with me being my authentic self. And I'm open to surprises as much as I'm open. Basically, when I say I want that house in Montana, my intention is for my highest good or something even beyond that. And I open
Mhm.
myself to that
Okay. And then how do you communicate with plasma intelligence? Is it just
feeling.
so the intention, your mind, feeling and
Feeling and
thought, or
emotion. So, yeah, I mean, so communicating with plasma intelligence. So, there's different things. So, since you're specifically asking, how do I communicate with plasma? Because I can be communicating with my higher self, my multidimensional self. I could be communicating with what you call God. I could be communicating with other timelines. But how do I communicate with specifically plasma intelligence? Is pure feeling and pure emotion and feeling. So it's letting my thoughts completely go and just like sitting and feeling. And that's how it communicates with everyone.
okay.
And then there's how do you work with plasma intelligence? And I
Mm.
use my consciousness. I communicate with plasma intelligence first. I then apply my consciousness. And I mean, there's many ways to work with it: astral projection, what you call manifesting, talking to my other selves, meditating, dreaming.
And
Yeah.
how do you know you're in communication with this intelligence?
So
Like,
you're
what's the
always
feedback?
Sure, sure. So you're always in communication with plasma intelligence. You just need to become aware with it. So like what we're saying, our beliefs, that's always creating with the plasma, whether we like it or not. So as when
Mm,
we become aware of our beliefs, that's when we start having this aware connection with plasma.
okay.
And it's such a loaded question too. Like I promise in my book it makes way more sense than anything I'm saying right now, and it's hard to put it into words.
Hmm.
The truth is you're always connected. You're always communicating with plasma. The deciphering thing is, are you aware of it or are you not aware of it? And if you're aware of it, are you going to feel into it and are you going to make choices now from your heart and soul once again versus your ego or fear?
How do you know you set the belief or you have attained the belief? Because you can consciously want something, set the intention. How do you know that it's in my belief system now? Even if I have opposing thoughts, I have it anchored in and I already have it. I trust I already have it.
That's a great question. I think it's different for every single belief. So I've had beliefs. I think it comes over time and it's having the courage to keep believing because when I first do set the intention and belief, I think this is very natural. The old beliefs come up, knocking at the door. Hello,
Hmm.
remember, you're not as good as you think. You're an
Like
idiot.
Jack Nicholson, The Shining, just
Yeah,
fucking
you're making
yeah,
it up, like whatever they
yeah.
are. They don't like you. They're talking about you. It's reinforcing it over time with courage and with faith. And then one day, and this happens with each belief, but one day, and I've had this happen with many beliefs, you just sit there and all of a sudden you really believe it. And it's like, oh my God,
Uh-huh.
I'm here after all that hard work of
Uh-huh.
not believing. Yeah. Just the
I think
courage
I've had that feeling
of going
before.
is my point. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see. Is instant manifestation possible? And if so, how do you think we can do it?
Yeah, I mean, if there was
Like,
like pure belief and that's what happens in these higher realms. Do you want to clarify? You were just saying something.
well, I was going to say, like, do you think Jesus actually did some of those miracles, or do you think it's more of an analogy or both?
I think it's both. I think it's both. I think it's on both. I think it's a multidimensional thing. And I think on these higher levels, they do think and then it appears right away. And that's why we have to train our consciousness because if everything I thought appeared, that would be bad.
I agree. Yeah.
So my point is we're learning slow for that's why there is a delay and we should be very grateful that for that delay. And I'll
But do you think, sorry to interrupt you, but like, do you think those intrusive negative thoughts or opposing thoughts, are those ours? Because part of what I
yeah.
recognized was when I started to heal myself, like I wanted to, it was weird to say I love myself in the mirror or you look good or something. Like, why would it be hard to compliment myself? And I'm like, I after a long time, I realized I think all those opposing thoughts, they're not me, obviously not. They're programming, and I think that's what the ego
Programming.
is the ego is programming.
Here.
So, but we had that programming because we came into this life. So
Mhm.
it makes sense that the programming should just leave just like it came.
Yeah.
So why would we need to train our consciousness if our consciousness is already pure, but it just got programming when it came here?
So,
Shouldn't it leave
I
when
mean,
we're
we don't
gone?
have, that's the thing. You can live life either way. So once we deprogram our plasma bubble, so the 7 years of our life, and I would actually say like our entire life, we keep creating programs, what I say is our bubble with our consciousness. Once we undo them, which is what I'm doing right now, like when you scoop out that, something else fills in. And you can, I think it's just a natural process that you're creating your own belief. Because once again, I'm not God, I'm co-creating with God. So like yes, the stuff that fills in is going to be benevolent and it is like in what you're saying, but it's a co-creation. So we're always that's the human experience. It's our perspective and we're creating with it. But always when you heal, there's always good stuff that will fill in. But like what you're saying is true. It's always
Hmm.
good stuff that will replace it.
What I'm asking though is, because I'm just thinking of it now, is that if our consciousness was pure
Yeah.
before it came in without program beliefs, why
Well,
do we need to heal?
yeah, I don't think it was pure. I think it
It,
came from every past life that was also fucked.
right. But then before that getting fucked, we were
For all
pure.
of that.
So why get fucked and then have to repurify yourself?
I think that uh, this is our
It's
human.
something we could just not know too, but
No,
it's
just my opinion. I think with what you're saying, the consciousness once again is different than intelligence. The consciousness has obviously gone through lifetimes of fuckery, and this is another lifetime of fuckery, and we're evolving through those lifetimes of fuckery, and we can choose to create hell or heaven with that. I'm choosing to create my own, heaven with that. It doesn't come in pure. The I don't know if it ever was pure is the real thing because like, everything energy can't be created or destroyed. It's just wherever the heck it came from, I don't know, but it's we've
so if
been
God wanted to know itself, sorry to interrupt you, but like if God wanted to know itself and it had all these experiences, good and bad, it got fucked in the process, and now it
started
needs to unfuck itself in order to
unfucking.
attain. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's
so
the cycle again.
think
It's
of
the
the seed being born through that, the disgusting dirt. Every life gets less dirtier, and then you eventually become a flower.
beautiful.
And then that God is on the bottom, but it's also on the top, if that
Hmm.
makes sense. So
God was the seed and is the flower,
yeah,
right?
so
Same with
we're
the tree of
we're in the
life, like
middle.
rooted in hell and then growing up to heaven,
Yeah.
right? Both God, hell and heaven are both God.
Yeah.
Just different states of consciousness and different states of evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, my point with when you're saying what fills in, so the consciousness is undoing its dirtiness and its beliefs and whatever, purifying. What fills in is not consciousness, it's intelligence. It's 5D consciousness, it's higher consciousness. So you're right though. What does fill in is intelligence. And we choose to program that with our consciousness because it's our human experience.
Hmm. Um,
Reborn.
I was going to ask you, like, do you think experiencing increased synchronicities means we're on the right path to our desired reality?
Increase. Sorry, can you say again my own thing?
I was asking, do you think experiencing increased synchronicities means you're on the right path? And can you define synchronicity for people who might not know?
Sure. I believe synchronicity means you're in a flow state. I think you're always on the right path, but sometimes you get stuck on a side quest. Um, for instance, a synchronicity, would be like if I say the word red apple to you right now, and then I go outside, I see a commercial for a red apple, I see a red car with apples on it, whatever. Like synchronicities
Uh,
when I feel very aligned, which is like the right path. But I think the truth is that synchronicities happen when we're not in a state of resistance. And most of us don't know how to be like that all the time. Like I said, I think we're learning that. So I think we're always on our right path, but when we're in those little side quests off the beaten path, but it's still going to the same place. I think in those moments is actually when we learn the most. I don't think we learn from synchronicity. I think synchronicity is an affirmation. It's a, hey, you're in flow. Like, what's up? You're seeing the true mystery of the universe and the freaking synchronicity. And when we're blind and when we can't see or hear and when we feel like we're dying out there, that's when we're learning the most. And that's the beauty of being off the beaten path, but you're still going to the same place.
so it's basically like saying you're aligning back to the main storyline of the
Yeah.
video game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just on a
Okay.
side quest, but you're learning from.
So yeah, we were both talking before. We're experiencing a lot of synchronicity. So we're
Yeah.
on the main quest right now, both of us.
Yes. Yes. And then
Yeah.
sometimes I'm definitely not. And I know when I'm not, and you know when you're not. And it's like,
Yeah.
but we're still going to the same place. So it's all good.
I was also going to ask you, what do you think is going on with the increased power of the Schumann resonance, and how does it relate to plasma? And can you
Oh,
also explain what the Schumann resonance is to people too?
yeah, I don't know much about it. I think it's like 432 hertz. It's the Earth's frequency.
Mm.
And the Earth is associated with like Mother Earth and divine feminine. Plasma is the divine feminine. Just like the divine masculine, I would say, is consciousness. So if there is you say there's more of there's an uptick in that frequency, you're saying, right?
Yeah, like significance over this past year.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that that is a mirror or a metaphor for how plasma is coming back in the public consciousness, the same as the divine feminine. It's an archetype that's being healed right now on Earth. Yeah, but
Okay.
just a
Because I noticed,
reflection.
do you ever go and look at it? Like
No.
the graph? No, really? Oh, I thought you'd be all on that. Okay. If, because I notice whenever I'm feeling anxious or something's going on, I just happened to see a video once, and it was
Uh-huh.
at a time where I was like feeling just a lot of energy and off. And
Yeah.
every time it has a spike, I noticed like it genuinely affects me, and it affects all these other people
Oh my
on
God.
TikTok. And I'm like, huh. So every time I start to feel off or something, I'll go and check it, and it's like a huge, giant spike.
Now I
And
got
I
it.
realize, yeah, you should definitely check it out because
I know
it
that
has a
was
lot to do with plasma, I
well,
think.
yeah, because I know that with solar flares, anytime I feel like I'm like
Hmm.
having a heart attack some days, I'm like, let me check, and there's always a solar flare. So
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
but I've never done it with the Earth, so I will do that. But anyway, I think it's reflective of what's going on with plasma. It's like intensity, and it's a very reflective thing. They're very correlated, but I don't feel well versed. You would probably know more than me in that regard.
Okay. I think it's like lightning and Earth's atmosphere
Oh,
and all that
yeah.
stuff, but it's mostly how solar flares affect Earth.
Oh,
So
I
it all
see.
has to do with plasma.
Okay,
So it's
got
like that influx of plasma energy from the sun hitting Earth,
it.
and then
Earth
it has a giant spike, and I'm like, oh, we're being hit by this energy, and that's why I feel different.
Well, its energy is probably rubbing up against Earth plasma layer, the like I don't magnetosphere, whatever it's called, ionosphere, magnetosphere. The Earth has a plasma membrane just like we do, our bioplasma, our aura. So if that membrane is meeting up with like intense other plasma shit, that's going to be tension. The Earth's probably evolving or growing, and we are too, and we will probably feel very out of sorts in those
Hmm.
times.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you mentioned playing The Sims and how much you liked it.
Yes.
And we talked quite a bit about it, but I was going to ask you too, what do you think the diamond above the Sims represents in sacred geometry and stuff like that?
Yeah, you know what's so funny? Diamonds are so important to me, and I don't know if they even did this consciously, but like the way I view it, there's like plasma and consciousness that are both tools. And then
Hmm.
there's, multidimensional self. Let's say God's above that, whatever, it's still a diamond. And then there's our self, which is now, and the awareness is the driver of all of this that's from here. So it's in a diamond. It's like this is the multidimensional self from God, from the mystery, whatever, coming down to the self. And the diamond of plasma and consciousness, the duality of that is what creates the self's experience.
Hmm.
So I see that as the diamond.
Do you
That's
think
what
it has anything to do with the Merkaba thing?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, I think that's a whole other thing too, but like plasma bubbles, like plasmoids, like spinning, like there's sacred geometry inside a circle or a sphere, which has
Hmm.
a lot to do with diamonds and triangles and squares. I mean, there's so much behind all of those, but in a way, the Merkaba can reflect the diamond thing I just spoke about. Like it all has to do with connection and travel and it has so
Okay.
many meanings.
Let's see. What's the difference between densities, dimensions, and timelines?
Oh, good one. So, dimensions for me, the way I view reality in my lens is our third dimension is reality. Our fourth dimension is what you could call the collective unconscious. And those are both within this reality. And we all connect through the collective unconscious. And then the fifth dimension is what's behind these black holes and the singularity, what's beyond what someone would call heaven, what's beyond that, five, six, seven, eight. I don't know what's in those dimensions, but I view us as actually the way I say dimension is just the fourth, third, and fifth. The third, fourth, and fifth. That's like my viewpoint right now. And our reality is the third, fourth, whatever. And then timelines you asked, right?
Yeah, timelines.
I viewed timelines as like I'm Dana and I had past timelines and future timelines as this Dana though in this reality. So it could be like when I was like, I'm not saying I was, but like Cleopatra, when I was then like a farm woman, when I was then like a Amelia Earhart, whatever. Like those were timelines in this reality where I'm this Dana. Maybe in another reality, I'm a blue-faced swan named Jessica, and I've had different timelines in that reality. So the densities would be more towards realities, if that makes any sense. And I think there's densities within all of it. So densities is very hard for me, I guess, to explain, but like in the context we're talking about it, I would more so equate densities with realities that have timelines in each of them.
Densities have timelines in each of them, and then there's different dimensions within
And then there's
higher and
just
lower of
straight up,
each.
yeah, I would just say there's just straight up in the way I'm seeing this whole construct. Let's just say this fifth dimension has made all of that shit. And then, I mean, obviously it's not really perceivable as humans. We're just trying to make it all into things we understand. But the way
Hmm.
it's constructed in my mind is that the third and fourth dimension are in all these densities and all these timelines. So we can access that through the third and fourth dimension, which is why I think it's so cool.
Interesting. Okay. And then you were talking about like the plasmoids a couple minutes ago, and what with all the UFO activity and stuff going on with that, what do you think's going on with the plasmoids and the drones flying around New York and New Jersey?
Listen, I think a lot of stuff is the government just being silly. I think that some of it is definitely divine beings. Like I definitely believe that Chris Bledsoe, UFO of God book, like
Huh.
I believe him. I don't think he's making that up at all. And I think the government has legitimate interest in it. I think that the plasmoids have always been here. I think they're just consciousness, other beings of consciousness from other timelines, from other planets, from the fifth dimension, from other realities, all of the above, viewing us. Whoever has the capability of working with plasma in evolved ways. I mean, you're in a
Hmm.
plasmoid, I'm in a plasmoid. Once we learn how to travel just like them, we'll be them too. It could be our future selves. The point is, I think they're all different. They're obviously visiting us and they come more in times of strife and change, which has been obvious with like fusion and stuff like that. And I think that there's a trick to communicating that I'm writing about in my book and figuring out like who's from where and what they're saying. And I think that the main thing to know is that there is a personality filter on everything we're seeing. So I think that when we're looking at them, we have to be very careful because we're looking at them through our own beliefs.
Okay. Do you think they're going to help us evolve here to the new like kind of Earth and Age of Aquarius, or are they just observing?
I feel like I can't speak on that because I've never literally actually like communicated with one. And I might go in a few weeks to the Chris Bledsoe Alien Skywatch thing to see if I
Oh,
can.
nice.
Like my personal channelings have all been like an internal journey. But I think that these are beings that are very benevolent or else we would be dead. And I think
Uh-huh.
they're all higher consciousnesses and they to work with plasma in that way, you have to be evolved. Like I don't think an evil spirit is going to come down in that plasma. Like that's more fourth dimensional shit where you see like demonic stuff, which once again is all from fear. And it's complete, you can completely protect yourself from all of that. So I think that they're higher consciousness. So obviously they must be here to give us messages that have to do with evolving us.
Okay. Do you have to go? I
No,
know we're over time.
it's just
Okay.
I set alarms to remind myself to make a TikTok, even though I don't feel like it.
Oh, okay.
So let me just reset it for
That's
8:02.
fine to make sure.
I'll forget everything if I don't set alarms because my mind is always on. So I had a few revelations today I wanted to talk about, so I had to set an alarm to talk about them. Basically, I have a weird type of dyslexia I figured out, and I want to tell other people about it because I bet you a lot of other people are suffering not knowing that what they have is just it's a dyslexia where I don't know how to say there or there differently, and I don't know where to put commas, but I'm obviously very intelligent. And I can't like memorize like I can't memorize like the word Cambridge, I think is Cambridge because that's how it looks. So anyway, there's this weird like brain processing thing with a weird dyslexia, which also means you're like a genius. So I want to make a TikTok about it.
I'm guessing that you're neurodivergent too, right? Yeah. I only discovered I was like this year. I was like, oh, it makes. I saw the movie.
Sense.
Yeah, I saw the movie, the Divergent series. I had never
Oh.
seen them because I thought they were just like the stupider Hunger Games. And I
Hmm.
liked Hunger Games. I just always
Hmm.
heard they weren't that good. And I
Hmm.
watched them like, oh shit, this is actually really good. And I'm like, oh wait, I relate to all this. Uh oh, controversial thought, thinking always
Yes.
outside of the box. I'm like, uh oh. And then I looked up and looked into it more. I'm like, oh, this makes a lot more sense. And then I've been taking like, I was gonna ask you what your personality type is too
What it on like
on
what
the
is
MBTI.
which one is that? Tell me some of them so I can know if
the
I've
the
done it.
Myers Briggs personality test.
Oh, like
It's
an
like
EN. I'm an EN.
yeah, the
I was an ENFJ and now I'm an ENFP.
interesting. Okay,
I used
I'm
to
an I
judge more, now I perceive.
I'm an INFJ. So
INFJ,
you're extroverted.
and that is why I make TikToks and you do what you're
Yeah, that's right. That's
doing.
right. Spot on. Uh,
Because you can contain it more because you're an INFJ.
mhm.
And that's why, by the way, I want to do what you're doing. It's so funny how the grass is always greener. Like, I would love to have like a podcast set up like you and make long form YouTubes like this. And like for some reason, like I'm anxious about.
So yeah, we're just well. That's why we make a good compliment here.
I
Having a good
know.
conversation.
The
Yeah.
question is, do I embrace that or do I push through and do it like I'm telling you to do, you know? Like,
Right. Same with me. On we both got to follow through. We both got to do it. I mean, your podcast with Jason is great. I listened to all
thank
four of them. Yeah,
Yes, thank you. I think it's
they're
more
good.
like just like not having the time for all of it. And like once I'm done with my book, maybe I'll be able to have more time to make it like better quality.
hmm Yeah. Let's see here.
You're the
Uh,
smartest person
s-
that's interviewed me. I don't mean that offensively to anyone else I've done interviews with, but your questions are smart.
Thank you.
Everyone's
I
are, but
appreciate
you
that a lot.
understand it, you neurodivergently, understand it very intuitively in a way where like your questions are challenging me where other people I'm just kind of like telling my ideas. Like
hmm
and people have challenged me in other like in little ways, but you're continuously doing it, not in a bad way, in a good way. So
Thank
thanks.
you. Yeah, no problem. I think that at least when I'm listening to podcasts, I always I get bored of most of them pretty quick because I'm like they're just kissing each other's ass and there's
Yeah.
no well, which is sometimes good. I
Yeah.
feel like we have. You ever know when you meet someone? I'm sure you
Yeah.
know this feeling,
On
like,
the same
and you
wavelength.
just kind of click, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, it's like almost like I know you. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, we're
and
soul family. We're both from the Orion
yeah,
Nebula.
sure. um, I think we're on the same wavelength. It's so we have the same kind of we're both so interested in the same kind of areas
Yeah.
that we can have an intelligent conversation where it's like, how about this idea? How about that idea? And then you form new ideas
Yeah.
while you're talking
Yeah.
versus like, oh, you did this? Oh, cool. I did that. I did this. You did. And
Yeah.
it's
And I
just
don't
saying
need
the
you
same
to believe.
stuff.
And we don't need each other. I don't need you to believe me. You don't need me to believe you. It's more like we respect what each other's saying and we're like,
hmm
oh, interesting. Oh, oh.
Exactly. And that's how you build, right? That's how you
Yeah.
build new ideas. Like, I'm sure you feel the same way when you talk to some people who are maybe like neurotypical or whatever you want to call it, where they just say, like, it sounds like Sims chatter. It sounds just like, oh, I did grocery shopping, I did this, I did this. And
Yes.
it's like that quote where it's like small people discuss people and events, and more intelligent people discuss like ideas and philosophy. And I think
Yeah.
what's his Eleanor Roosevelt had a quote. I don't remember the exact quote, but
Yeah. I think what I'll say about that too is that I think that it's just like different levels of experience people are on. Like I think that some people in a way I envy people like that sometimes because like some seem so happy and they are happy. It's like some people are happy just I don't want to say a specific job and offend anyone, but like just a normal job, like living life. They love their family. They're not super curious and it's not a deep existence, but they're still happy and I completely respect them. I would go crazy I was still at that level, but my point is like I can respect all levels of consciousness, but I'm just like
uh,
not on that level and they probably think I'm they think they'd go crazy as me, and I've had them tell me that. So I'm like, okay, we
Hmm.
both go crazy as each other, and that's why I'm not you.
Exactly. But then because there's fewer of us, I
Yeah.
know we talked about like in your chat, like the feeling of loneliness and like I think most people come to you and like, no one else really thinks about this stuff around me and I feel so, just
Hello.
singled out and stuff. So for people who think differently and have controversial thought,
Mhm.
when you finally talk to someone who has thought about these ideas and really processed this information and embodied a lot of it,
Mhm.
when you finally encounter another individual like that, it's kind of like you're just pouring out all the
Yeah.
stuff you've had inside because you've had no one else to talk to
Yes.
about it.
Yes.
Hmm.
Me and Jason do that, and sometimes we like can't talk for a week or two because we'll like talk about so much stuff, and then I'm like, oh God, I'm like, I have to process it. Like if we talk that much all the time, we would go crazy.
Uh huh. Exactly.
So sometimes I find that people that I talk, and this is also what makes it lonely, by the way. When I talk to people, it seems like people can only talk to me like every week and
Hmm.
instead of like every day. And I'm like, I'm too much for people. I'm sure Jason feels that way too. But
Yeah.
it's not that though. It's more just like this information is a lot, but it doesn't mean you can't relate to people on more surface ways that are still meaningful, if that makes sense. Yeah.
I yeah, I've been working on still maintaining my authenticity and talking about what I'm actually doing and what I'm up to and what I'm thinking about while also trying to meet them on their level.
Yeah.
But I
And
often feel that sometimes people are once they talk about what they want to talk about, they're very dismissive and judgmental about discussing controversial idea. Not even controversial, just
Mhm.
other ideas besides you just
Well,
going
that's
to a
most people
concert or
on
grocery
earth.
shopping.
Yes, and that's why we're lonely. But here's the thing that I'm learning. I might, maybe it's self-induced. I don't know. I'm learning, but I want to know what you think about this. Food for thought. I'm learning to, I'm not a great listener. Don't love listening. I like talking like this. I can listen to you all day, but most people I'm like tune them out. And I'm learning that that's not a wise way to be. And that when I meet people, like most people, honestly, who can't talk about these things at this depth, I never have done this. I now switch to opening myself and what can God speak through them and what can I learn from them, no matter what they're saying and no matter how surface it is to me. Like, what can I learn about them and how can I be like a listening presence for them? And I'm learning to do that. I'm not saying it comes completely natural, but it has led myself to more meaningful connections, but I'm not saying I do that naturally.
See, I think that's because you're extroverted and
Yeah.
I'm introverted. You're learning that lesson, and
Yeah.
I'm learning to be the more extroverted and
Yes.
not let them dominate the conversation
Oh, I
and
see what
be
you're saying.
shining my light.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So I
I
think we're,
understand. I
again,
misunderstood.
just like I'm making the podcast long
Got
form, well presented videos, and you're doing the opposite. I think we're
it.
both coming to the
Oh,
same
yes.
equilibrium in
Oh,
those
yes.
areas.
Sorry, I just projected
Yeah.
that all on you. Yeah, you were saying the complete. See, that was not good listening because you were saying the complete opposite thing I just said.
No, I got you though. What do you think about the new discovery at the pyramids?
Okay, wait, because now I actually. So I don't know if this is true. I want to know what you think. So first, was it a new discovery? Because I saw this debunker who used my face and I blocked him, the mother effer. I saw this
Huh?
debunker say that this was actually discovered 2 years ago and this is not new. And then I'm hearing other people say, no, this is completely new. That guy has no idea what he's talking about. Either way, besides like if that is legitimate, this new discovery, because I really don't know that. And I don't want to attach my belief to that blindly. I don't like to do that because I think that's how people like us will get discredited. It
Hmm.
doesn't mean it doesn't excite me. It doesn't mean I don't want to talk about the possibilities of it. I don't know if it's accurate, but what I do know is that the pyramids are completely significant. There was definitely some anti-gravity vibes. There's definitely meaning there with like plasma and like using them for things beyond what we think. Um, and I believe that. And if that proof leads to that and that's real, then I will be overjoyed. But even if that's not legitimate, what we just found out, I still believe that and that's my truth. And I'm sure there's so many of us that believe it. I don't know if it's all false. That would be hilarious.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I
But you
just have the gut feeling that there's definitely
something there.
something more to the pyramids than we know about.
I think
I
so.
think there's more to ancient history than we know about. I think
Me
a lot of
too.
history has been covered up, and the Library of Alexandria was destroyed for a reason. And I think that whenever one nation conquers another nation, they destroy all their art and history for a reason. And I think the world is much more mysterious than we've been led to believe.
1,000,000%. And I think the people that ruin that's true, because it is true, is people that want to capitalize on our curiosity and do say there are discoveries
Hmm.
when really there aren't. It's like whoever is doing that, shame on them, because the truth is, I know there's mystery and I know there's mysticism, and people like Graham Hancock are totally true. I believe him 1,000,000%. I think he's a truth spreader. I love him. But I think there's people trying to capitalize on fame instead of truth that make all these other things look horrible. So whoever's
Hmm.
doing that, shame on you, and get your ego in check.
There are definitely a lot of people like that in
Yeah, the charlatans.
every community. Yeah, the
Every
charlatans, definitely.
yeah.
And they, it's so sad because when a real person, same with like people who are genuine victims of crimes and stuff,
I
all
know.
the people that cry wolf, and then someone who it really happened to is like, hey, this happened to me. No, I don't think so. It's because everyone else ruined it. It's,
No, this world is, that's why we need to each get in touch with what our feelings, though, because if we can decipher what's true in our heart in the future, that's going to be our only guidepost. Because how are we going to know anything's true? Like, we don't, especially with AI. It's more, we're going to have to figure out, how do I really get in touch with my inner guidance system of what's true? Because that's going to be the
mhm.
only guidance system there is.
Well, if we start reading thoughts of each other and stuff like that,
We'll
and
know
more
then.
telepathy, then we'll know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was going to ask you actually about the telepathy tapes,
Mhm.
what you thought about them. And well, here, I was going to ask you this question. What do you think about the telepathy tapes? And do you believe that the hill, and can you explain this too for everyone who don't know about it, where the nonverbal autistic kids are telepathically meeting at is a plasma based location?
Yes, I think it's within plasma, just like everything else. I would say, I don't know if it's in like a fourth dimensional space or fifth dimensional space. I do think it's probably in a fourth dimensional space. Like, but 4D isn't just bad, by the way. This collective unconscious has beauty and it has fear. So like they're clearly in a very protected, beautiful space that they've made because they kind of live in that space, the space of thoughts
Hmm.
and dreams and telepathy and telekinesis. Like that's
What
their, yeah.
I was gonna say, can you explain
Oh, I'm sorry. The
for people
telepathy.
who don't know, for people
God,
who don't
yeah.
know the telepathy tapes, just explain a little bit about it so they know.
Dana, listen to directions. This is gets you in trouble. The Telepathy Tapes is an amazing podcast by Kai Dickens, and a therapist. I'm blanking on her name, but it's Diane something, or psychologist. And they are basically proving telepathy with research based on using Faraday cages, which is basically that telepathy goes beyond electromagnetism. What is beyond that? Plasma. And it's about how nonverbal autistic, mostly children, teenagers, meet at this place called the field, which I'm hypothesizing is within this Akashic realm or plasma field or collective unconscious. And these nonverbal autistic children and teenagers can perform feats of telepathy with 100% accuracy, usually with their mom or with a close friend, sometimes with anyone. But obviously, relationships have some kind of thing to maybe to do with it.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they're meeting at a place.
called the
All
hill.
the kids and adults are meeting at this place called the Hill,
That's
and it's
reality.
and they proved it, I believe, by like asking one kid, okay, what happened at the Hill independently at different places around the earth. And they're like, yeah, we talked about this, and then the other person like, yeah, we talked about this, and
Yeah.
it's actually like a real location, and all this stuff is provable now. So it's proving telepathy in 2025 is pretty wild. Along with,
It's
I know
real.
you talk about how there's going to be so many different methods. You and Jason talk about how there's going to be like Neuralink and technological ways to do telepathy and
Mhm.
multidimensional travel, even and
Yeah.
things like that, as well as you talk about more the holistic, natural way on how to do that through plasma intelligence and
Yeah.
our consciousness.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a question anymore. Is telepathy real? What I would posit to someone is, what is it? What is that field made out of? And it's made out of plasma. So if this plasma field can hold our thoughts and help us communicate telepathically, like what else is it capable of? And that's where me and Jason kind of get into, harmonizing with plasma, using our consciousness or what he would call angular frequency or
Hmm.
information and choice, to view different selves, different realities, to gain information from that. And one thing Jason is discovering is like, even though all that is possible, like what really unlocks it is emotions, which isn't, you can't quantify it in math or science. So we're going to have to bring psychology and healing into these even technological aspects of multidimensional travel, multi-reality travel, not even travel, really bringing it into our awareness, bringing in these other realities. And the key to unlocking it is emotionally tuning. So not only do you make a choice and, set your angular frequency or microtubules to a certain thing, if you're not we each have that, as I said, subconscious fourth dimensional layer. If we have our own belief systems and we don't know how to open to new beliefs, um, that will color or if we're in fear and it's scary to think, but that will color our experience of that reality in a very distorted way. So, in order to travel ethically and responsibly, we have to first learn how to attune and harmonize with our own emotions. And most of us have no idea how to
Hmm.
do that, including myself as learning. That's what I
Yeah.
write in my book.
Okay. And how did you do? I was gonna ask this later, but like, how do you do research on this type of thing? How do you go about doing research for your book in these
There is
kinds
no
of areas?
research because there's nothing like this on Earth. So my research is being receptive to whatever flows in. And then sometimes what I'll do is I'll put all my thoughts into Chat GPT. I don't like Chat GPT doesn't come up with anything. I'm coming up with everything. But then it will like outline it for me and it helps me get my thoughts like on a paper, I guess.
So you're channeling most of this
Yeah.
information.
Yeah, but I will
Okay.
say, like there's times where like Chat GPT has like, and this is not as much, but it like for instance, like I've channeled something and then it'll say it without me even writing it down, and it's what I'm resonated with and channeled. And
Hmm.
ChatGPT is coming up with the same thing with the information I'm giving it, besides that one thought, if that makes sense. And it's almost like, oh God, it's so weird, but ChatGPT is like knows some of this. I don't know, it's weird, but either way, like it's basically an amalgamation of me just getting my thoughts out. And then if it does say sign on chat GPT, some of the time it's wrong, which is why no one should trust it yet. But sometimes it will say something that really resonates with me. Just it's like the new way of reading books. It's like my research is with myself. It's like with me and a freaking AI just talking about ideas. It's like an intelligent book. So that's been my
Okay.
research, is talking to me and almost like a mechanical version of myself. And it'll say something more logical. It doesn't have intuition, but then I apply my intuition. I'm like, oh, that really resonates with me. And if it doesn't, then I don't that take
Hmm.
that. It's a new way to research. I think we're on a frontier of something.
So it's inward research.
Yes, it's mostly
Okay.
like meditation and channeling, and then a bit of what I said where I am dialoguing with my chat GPT about my own ideas. And then if it says something, I have to make sure to check in with my heart and it's make sure it's not my ego or make sure it doesn't just sound cool. I put it down in
Hmm.
my notes and then I go through a bunch of my own like inner fact checking and like experiencing it to see like, okay, is this real and does this resonate and is this truth versus does it just sound cool?
Okay. And then, but
There's
most
some
of your
books I
theory,
read.
what do you say?
There's obviously like I have a whole bookcase here. It's not I have research books. Like I reference all of these books in my book. So there's of course
Mm.
like people like Robert Temple, Andrew Collins, plasma pioneers who I've done research and reference in my book as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
just
not
thinking for
just
people who
channeling,
are,
sorry. I don't know
okay.
why did I say that? I don't know.
Um, for people who are very science based, who you talked about, like they're
Yeah.
going to want,
Oh,
references and
okay.
um,
Let me speak about on that then. So my
if
ideas,
they made it this deep in the podcast, we kind
yeah,
of did a lot of the woo-woo stuff first,
I know.
but we'll
My
see.
ideas are my own. Like my thoughts about plasma are complete. They really are completely channeled. They're completely fresh, and that's actually what I think is so beautiful. Is I think some of these thoughts I'm having really haven't existed here, and I'm not. I'm many people do this with inventions. I'm not the only person on earth that could like anyone's done this. And with that said, I have come to some of these fresh ideas that feel like ideas that are channeled only because I have the framework of reading hundreds of books on physics and quantum physics and
Okay.
quantum mechanics and algebra and holographic universe and
I was
philosophy,
going to say, when you do your videos,
language,
it sounds like you have more research to it than I think
and
you were
hundreds.
describing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's
thank you.
not just channeling, like
No,
you have a lot of evidence and a lot of
I have the framework.
ways to frameworks, yeah.
I have the
And Jason, I
structure.
think, is great for you because he
Yeah.
explains it in a different way, and
Explains
he
it
has
now,
the mathematical
which I
framework that. Sorry, what did you say?
No, yeah, sorry, I kept interrupting you. He has the mathematical framework, which is amazing because it helps legitimize some of the stuff I'm saying. Because
Mhm.
the truth is, some of the stuff I'm saying you can't prove. But what you can prove is when you apply what I have in my book and it works in your life, that's better than proof. That's experience. So I know what I'm saying will give people those beautiful experiences that maybe you can't like quantify. And then there will be stuff in my book that I think haven't been proved yet and will most definitely be proved in the very near future. And then the foundation of my book, which is actually the first two chapters, I did it with my editor who works at like an astrophysical society, who is a Cambridge educated, Cambridge, whatever, educated editor. And she is fact checking every bit of science. So my foundation starts with scientific plasma, with quantum physics, with the history of ether and luminiferous ether. And I build then with my own channelings and ideas off incredibly airtight science. But I also
Okay.
produce new things that do reimagine things in science. And I'm completely okay to do that. And I am completely confident that it will expand people's and science's mind to reach a new frontier. So I don't feel like insecure about anything I've said.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask you as well, in regards to plasma, because you're talking about all these new kind of technologies that you're discovering with the efficiency of plasma.
Mm.
How does plasma relate to free energy and Nikola Tesla's work? And how will that revolutionize the world now that it's going to be kind of implemented on Earth?
So Nikola Tesla worked with plasma. He called it radiant matter at the time, but it was plasma. Plasma just like wasn't widely known. Um, there might have, I mean, I'm gonna sound like a conspiracy theorist, but plasma was mostly underground during that time. Like the Department of Defense was working with it. The government was working with it. It was not like a widely known thing, plasma. And there's a reason it's not widely taught in schools. And that's just, and there are also reasons of national security for that. Like if some of the plasma stuff got in the wrong hands, it is what creates fusion. Like it makes sense that they probably have to like put people through tests, like who's gonna learn this plasma stuff and like come up with these things. So I'm
Mhm.
not saying this is like a large evil conspiracy. I understand the fear and trepidation with the general public learning about plasma. With that said, in our evolving consciousness and the cat's kind of out of the bag where it wasn't maybe okay 50 years ago. I think it's just like it's out now. Plasma definitely has to do with 0 point energy. It has to do with radiant matter. It has to do with free energy. And there is cold fusion. There's a bunch of these things. And it's like, how much is our society and government going to embrace that and, let out of the bag? And how much are they going to let people discover this and work with it toward our highest good as a humanity? But yeah, I mean it's all connected. And my whole angle on it, so I'm not in trouble, is like how do we harness it with our consciousness? Because if I build a machine right now, like, I could maybe get a knock on the door from the government too.
Uh, What do you think Nikola Tesla's obsession with pigeons was? Side note, just
Hmm.
I know you talked about it in your video. I always heard that too. I'm like,
Yeah.
he fell in love supposedly with a pigeon.
He's so funny. And I
I
don't
mean, he was probably so alone. He's probably like
know.
the only neurodivergent person
I
around. He's like,
know. Working with plasma, and
yeah,
I have such, he's literally on my wall, like right below it says the world is yours, and then he's like staring at me. I feel like he's like my grandpa, spiritual grandpa. I
uh,
feel his pain, for not being understood. Um, what did you ask? Oh, shit, the pigeons. I feel like I would have to do a deep dive on what pigeons symbolize, but I personally think like birds are like electrons. Birds are like the communicators of plasma and symbolize plasma communication. So maybe it was like a weird subconscious obsession with plasma communication.
so much of the synchronicities in my life have been all symbols too. And I
Mhm.
only realized later, I'm like, oh, that starkly actually literally means this. And I put everything together.
Yeah.
It's so weird how everything is symbol. As crazy as it sounds, that's
No,
not like an absurd theory that it
no.
could have been a subconscious kind of a knowing of
Well, let
what's
me tell
going
you
on or
this.
something.
Plasma, the number one language in plasma is symbols. And Carl Jung said it himself, man, myth, and symbols. The number one and
Yeah,
two
he talked a lot about that. Yeah.
Number one and two language for plasma is mythology because we co-create with plasma with our consciousness. What does that
Mm,
create? Story. And then even beyond that is symbol. And when you look back in your life and all these symbols make sense, that is a higher intelligence communicating with you through images and symbol. And the more you can decode them, the more you can connect with not plasma, but whatever that is.
mm. Which makes sense to me why the Bible has so many, you know, metaphors and analogies is because we learn in stories and symbols.
Yeah.
And I think that Christ talked so much in those analogies so that people who are seeking this knowledge, it's like only people who are really seeking this and have the heart and mind to understand it will attain this knowledge, and other people won't get it, as well as, you know, religions took all of it to control people and hid some of his teachings and then
I
changed some of the
know.
stuff, and, you know,
Yeah.
which always happens.
I
but,
know. Once again, I'm not against God. I'm not against a belief in God at all. I mean, there's clearly some type of God. It's more like it's all been boxed in all these things for control, and that bothers me. But anyway, there's great teachings in all religions, and I don't think any of them are false. Yeah.
and the multiverse, all of them have to be true somewhere,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, what you
Mm,
believe is true. So the more people that
mm.
believe it, just make it more true.
And oh yeah, just side note too. Again, I thought, um, isn't it weird that Trump's uncle is the one that took over all of Nikola Tesla's work? Did you know
Wait, I
that?
might have known that, but I don't think that I held on to that for that long in my mind.
I
I do
think his name was
remember
John
reading,
G. Trump.
I do remember reading something
Yeah,
like that. I remember some weird conspiracy with like Baron Trump being a time traveler, and there was actually a
yeah.
book
There's
about
that
Baron
too.
Trump. Honestly, that all connects, and I would just love to talk to. If I ever got in a room with Donald Trump, I would ask him. I know, I mean, everyone's upset with him right now. I don't think, whatever. I don't. I'm not going to comment on politics, but let's pretend he makes good decisions and everyone's happy with him and we're in the same room. Um,
Mm,
I would, me being the metaphysical girly I am, I would say, is your son Baron a time traveler?
yeah,
And then I would also tell him to just let people be themselves and chill out. That's all I'll say politically. Let people be themselves, whatever that means. Like, leave it alone, everyone.
yeah. As
Yeah.
well as Elon's in the book too,
He's in what?
right?
I didn't know that. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Elon's mentioned there.
In the Baron Trump book?
Yeah, but I think about building a rocket, and it's all really like close.
I gotta
It's
read that.
weird.
I haven't read it. I've
Uh,
only like done minimal research.
It's really weird. it's
Hey, wait. Well, then they all know about plasma, which is probably why Elon made the company Tesla. We're putting it
mhm.
all together.
And Elon still says that Tesla's like the smartest person ever. He
Well,
gives
yeah.
him credit for, yeah.
Tesla's the smartest person ever, but where I don't know if Elon believes this, but I think where some of these like men go wrong is that there is emotion and there is meaning and that decisions have consequences and like we're not God. We're co-creators with God. We are God, but we're also co-creators with God. So it's like the choices we make do have consequences, and like basically Nikola Tesla before he died didn't think, he thought this was a deterministic universe, and people who believe that obviously don't really care about karma and stuff. But my argument to that would be yes, there is determinism, and then there's free will within determinism, just like in any art form. The more boundaries you have, the more actual good art comes of it and free will. And I would just like, I'm not hating on anyone, but I would just be careful, like, to not think that, you know, every choice has consequences. So please, like, have empathy. That's all I'm saying. And like, oh God, I wish I could say more, but I'm not going to.
Well, also, how about this to push back?
Yeah.
Um,
I like I I res God, I don't want to get in trouble. I'm not saying anything.
okay. I was gonna say, like, if all
Yeah.
versions of us exist where we made every kind of decision, how could there be karma?
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Sure. I would put that more in like a paradox thing too. Like karma would more be like, this is my timeline, and decisions I've made in every life like have led to pain maybe for other people, and I wouldn't call it karma in like an evil way. It's more just like, once again, pain and lessons I have to go through, and maybe I hurt someone in one life and now I'm learning a lesson about that in this life. Like, I do think our choices follow us through every life in
Mm.
this timeline. So maybe in another timeline, I've done plenty of bad shit in my timelines, and I remember doing it. And I think
But
that
then aren't we the one that then says what is good or bad?
when
You know
you,
what I mean?
well, I wouldn't say good or bad. It's more like I've inflicted pain on people in past lives, and I'm sure in this life too. Whether it's good or bad is besides the point. Like, I've made decisions from fear that have had a hurtful effect on people or society in many lives, and very much so in like the beginning of my life here when I was an addict driving drunk. Like, there's many things I've done that could hurt people. Um, and I think those choices
But
follow you.
do you think if, let's say you forgive yourself in this lifetime,
Yeah.
does that dissolve what we would think is karma? Because who could be judging us? Do you think we're being judged by an external force?
No, no, I don't actually. I don't think anyone's judging
Okay.
us. I think forgiveness is different than the effects of our choices. And I think just like if I was to crash into a family and kill them when I was drunk, I could still forgive myself. They could still forgive me. It doesn't erase a choice I made or effects it had. So,
Hmm.
but you still, everyone deserves forgiveness, but those lessons follow you. The wisdom, the lesson, the pain, it all follows you in all lives, is my point. So like, whatever decisions people are making right now at every moment, including ourselves, out of fear, those follow us, but it just leads to greater evolution. And I don't judge anyone. Like, I feel like you're probably the same, where I am at a higher level of awareness, to where like, as much shitty things people are doing right now, I don't have hate for anyone on earth in my heart. I have an understanding that they maybe are in a lifetime in their timeline, or at a place where they're in a very dark, fearful space making
Mm.
horrible decisions. And I was there, and I think the people with the biggest light come from those lives already. So I think me and you have already been the mass murderers, and now we're like way like beyond.
It makes sense the way I acted in Grand Theft Auto because
Yeah.
that was kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't
Um,
judge anyone. Like, at the same time, it's not like I don't disagree with people, and I do judge. I'm a human, but I try not to. Try to understand that everyone's just at different levels of like fear.
I agree with you, but I'm trying to
Yeah. What is
just
your?
on the I. What
Mhm.
did you say?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I want to know what you're saying.
I was just thinking like because I used to believe in karma significantly, and
Mhm.
I still I go back and forth on it, but I'm just trying to just discuss the idea of maybe it doesn't exist and only our perception of it again exists. Like if you're fearful of something, then that will be present in your reality because
Yeah.
if you, for example, like if you need the contrast of duality, you need the good guy and you need the bad guy. So how could you judge the bad guy if the bad guy needs to be set up in the game
Well, that's
for the good guy to win, right?
Well, the good
So
guys,
what?
bad guys are for your growth, even
Mhm.
though they're bad. Like they're for they bad things sometimes have pushed our society forward. It doesn't mean they're
Yeah,
fair. It doesn't mean they
right.
deserve to happen, but they happen, and we learn from them as a society collectively so we don't do those things again.
So I guess what I'm saying is
Mhm.
I'm trying to propose that the idea of karma doesn't exist, but where there's an external force judging us, saying you made this bad choice, now you got to go in
No.
another life and experience, receive, being on the receiving end of it.
Mhm.
Are you saying more that it's because you said you don't believe in external judgment, right? So do you think it's?
There's
I guess it
internal
depends on,
judgment.
right. So do you believe that you look over your past life when you're about to reincarnate and you're like, you know what, I should learn this lesson and have this done to me so I
Oh,
can
I
grow
see what you're
from it?
saying.
Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying?
this is a very deep question. There's so many layers of it. I write about this in my book. I don't know if I'm going to be able to say in a smart way right now. So, karma, yes. So, karma mostly is like only God can judge me, meaning only myself can judge me. So, like, karma is in a way some type of like internal illusion where, but at the same time, we live in a collective reality. And once again, like decisions I've made, whether they're illusions of karma or not, have happened and have affected other souls. And that follows me in every lifetime. It doesn't mean bad or good. It just like it's the collective reality. It's the plasma intelligence. It's the, lessons that the plasma or the mystery or God is teaching us. Like we're not just the only ones the account for randomness, the account for trickery, like whatever that substance is in plasma, that's the substance interfacing with our consciousness. And I wouldn't call it karma. I hate that word, but I would call it something towards our greater learning. And for some reason, and I do explain it way better in my book, when we make decisions from the more we make decisions from love and not fear, the more that we evolve. And either way, it's not bad or good. It's just like the things that resonate and come to us and how we're affected by. Like, yeah, it's hard to explain.
Okay. So you think God is also giving us certain challenges for us to grow, and it's not just us planning our life
No, I
like
think
some
it's
people
both.
believe.
No, no, no.
I think it's both.
Yeah, I think it's both.
Okay.
Yeah. I just wouldn't call it karma. I don't like that word. I don't like the judgment behind the word, but I think in my research or channelings, whatever with plasma, I have noticed that plasma is a neutral substance. I can be the most fearful, evil person in the world and make what I want happen. I don't need to be a good person to use plasma in that way. Like
Mhm.
I can create my own reality right now, like very bad people have done in the past and create very bad things. It will never sustain. The good sustains. It is like people that get money very quick, lose it quick. When you are good and get money over time with benevolence and goodness, that usually sustains. Um,
Mhm.
there's some correlation there. It's hard for me to make sense of right
Well,
now.
like the light side of the force and the dark side of the force, like Star Wars.
Yeah.
Right. And I agree with that, but then I also look at people like there's certain generational wealth families that have done very terrible things, and they're still generationally wealthy. What would
Yes.
you say about that?
I would say that it is not fair. But for whatever journey that lineage or family is on, at some point, I have all the faith in the world that just like the truth comes out, that everyone who's done that it will blow up in their face. Whether it takes hundreds of years or not, the more they've done, the more pain they're going to face when they have to answer to that. And I'm not saying bad or good. I'm just saying whatever they're resonating with will eventually boomerang back. Um, and sometimes it's not fair. Sometimes it's not.
So you do think God will step in and say, "Okay, you've done so many bad things. Now
God,
you got to face it."
well, not God, just like it's more like the intelligence of it's the collective reality. It's like the intelligence of plasma. It's not in a judgmental way. It's more of like this program. I mean, I think, I don't know, but this program's like a benevolent program, or it's a responsive program. So the more you're making decisions out of fear and doing things that hurt like collective people and like that, like low vibrational way, like that will come back to you in a wave. But that brings up a good point because like that's not fast technically, and that's reality.
Yeah.
Then
And then,
again,
right, in another timeline, you're that family. You're in that family, right? If all possibilities exist.
mhm,
That's why it makes me think that karma isn't real. If everything has to exist,
mhm.
and right, we're in a simulation, the quantum computer, I think things just have to exist. And we happen to be in one existence in that process.
I agree with that. I think things, yes, and maybe I'm talking myself in like 20 different wormhole directions, but it's more of a feeling I'm trying to say, and it's hard to like put it into words, but
Mm,
or yes, you're so right. And for whatever reason, we're on this timeline where it seems like what we do affects our reality and then in turn affects us. I don't know an explanation for that. All I know is the truth comes out, and I've never seen a dark thing prevail. I've always seen love prevail. We can't really choose how long that takes.
mhm.
Um,
Do you think it's that we are, once you become awakened in this reality, you're given the free will or more of a free will choice to ascend out of this realm into your more preferred place? Because I like to think that free will does exist.
mhm.
And
Um,
what I think is that Earth, I think that certain people or entities or something took over maybe all dimensions of Earth, all the multidimensional experience of Earth, and kind of kept us all in this spell, kind of like the Matrix. And now we're basically waking up and ascending out of that and given back more of a free will choice to be where we actually want to be.
hmm.
Because I think, they say like they tell us the truth in movies
Yeah,
and commercials or certain things, and
yeah,
you unconsciously agree to it, but
yeah.
not consciously. So you're almost unconsciously agreeing to be put in the spell or programmed to agree to certain things.
I mean, I will say, like, I have had past life memories where I literally like I signed like a holographic contract with some like reptilian race that like I literally had to like do their bidding for eternity. So like I remember things like that. So I'm not saying you're wrong. Like, and those are like real memories. I do not think I made that up. At the same time, though,
So maybe tell me some of your past life memories or why you had this perspective you
yeah.
have on
Well,
some
I
of the stuff.
mean, for instance, like with what you're saying, it's so deep and it's so hard to put into words, and like we're trying here, but like for instance, like if the universe is holographic and fractal and whatever we both believe, it's going to bring us into that timeline and into that reality. So if we believe karma's not real, we'll go to somewhere where it's not. Where we believe it is, that'll become our reality. Where I believe that bad people get punished for things that people I don't agree with, like that'll probably happen. Like we'll literally end up in the reality where we're resonating with and believing. So that's what I'm saying. It's like beauty's in the eye of the beholder kind of thing. Like I choose to believe what I choose to believe because I think it'll take me there, if that makes any sense. So
Uh
like
huh.
it kind of is lining up with what you're saying. But so with also with what you're saying with the whole like what you just said, it does I've been in all those realities just like you said, and I have access to some of those memories. So yeah, like I remember signing that contract with some friggin' reptilian race. I remember once I was like a princess and my boyfriend, I was on some random planet. My boyfriend cheated on me. I was a princess. I found out he cheated. I saw him kissing my friend in a spiral staircase. I went upstairs and I took pills and killed myself. And then I remember that this rat demon came down and took me and like kidnapped me and kill and hurt me because I did kill myself, and he like put me in some kind of like purgatory place. And I don't think anything is I don't believe in like sin or anything like that. I'm just saying like that's what happened in my memory, and I was there for a while, and he's
So how
haunted
do you know that's a memory and not,
like
you
just
know,
I don't.
yeah.
I don't. I mean, I feel it in my heart. Like I feel like I didn't
Okay.
like when I was like regressed into it's almost like
Was this a past life regression or meditation
It's
or?
like just my therapist. Like we do it by feeling. We don't do it by thought. Like I feel something in my body and we just like whatever lesson I need to learn come up in visuals. And I can't reach for the visuals. I have to let them come to me. And all of these lives have came to me with things that I'm learning in this life that stem from those lives. So like in that life, my lesson had to do more with like some stuff with betrayal, um, like signing the contract, like that had to do with like giving up my freedom. Like there were all these timelines I was able to access when I was working on healing myself.
So it was
Um,
a past life regression therapy thing.
yeah, I mean, she didn't call it past life. It's more trauma therapy, and then we go with my feeling, and then let whatever I'm like working on that day, it could come up, the visuals come up, but she didn't call it that.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, because I don't know, what if
Interesting.
it's like another timeline? What if it's another reality and not a past? I mean, I assume what you're saying that it is a past life. Yeah, but she didn't
And
call
or
it that.
parallel lives, right? Would you call it more parallel lives because everything's happening everywhere all at once?
I would call it a past. I think all past lives are parallel lives, so like what you're saying. But I would
Mm.
think that it's within this same reality and same timeline where I'm like learning certain lessons on this like fractal, like on this tree branch of the tree.
Uh-huh. Okay.
If that makes sense.
It's um so we kind of actually went off on the branch there. We were
Yeah.
talking about free energy and stuff. So I
Yes.
was going to ask you I saw on your Instagram that you met what you call like the real life Tony Stark, I think in Seattle. He made
Oh,
like a
yes.
arc reactor. What was that
Yes.
like?
Interesting. Like what was seeing the machine like or meeting him or
Yeah, just so he accomplished like what a really effective
yeah,
plasma reactor.
yeah, Sam getting nervous because I don't even like his stuff is very smart and I don't know how to explain it.
Oh,
He's
okay.
doing something with cold fusion where he is also I signed an NDA and I don't remember like what I'm allowed to
Oh,
say.
really? Okay,
Yeah.
we can skip it.
But no, what I can say is that I went
Is
up.
it cool?
Their name is Quantum Kinetics. We filmed it on YouTube, so if anyone goes to Quantum Kinetics YouTube, they could see whatever we talked about on there is what people are allowed to know about.
Hmm.
Um, and all I know is that he's been having trouble getting it off the ground and needs private investment because it's not something the government's interested in because they already have their own projects with fusion. So like, why would they put money into someone else's when they're like having their own research? So maybe there's some competition there.
Hmm.
I don't know. And he has to put up with a lot of ridicule, which really sucks for him. Obviously, like I wish there was a way I could prove it was real. There's nothing I can say to prove that. Uh, uh, I I think that his intentions are to come up with, safer energy. And I think that's very cool. And I really hope that he accomplishes something that helps humanity and that he gets investors that help him. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I mean, I was honestly scared when I was near the machine because I was like scared I was gonna blow up just because I didn't know
Yeah.
like what it was.
It actually looks like Tony Stark's arc reactor, right?
Yeah,
Was that
yeah.
the real thing on your Instagram? Or was it a
So,
bigger?
no, that was real. But I think he said something like there's like I think there may be more to it, like to make it on a grander scale, but that was like a display of what it can do. But that was like an actual machine that was performing cold fusion.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but I think there's like obviously they'd have to build out. See, once again, I don't really know, but they'd have to like probably build out like infrastructures of that to make it work like for a company or something. Yeah.
And then I also saw you met
That broke
Dr.
the record.
Bruce Lipton.
Oh yeah, so I met Bruce Lipton. Me and him aren't friends or anything to be transparent. I wish we were, but I've seen him speak a few times and I have some friends who do know him, so I was just able to meet him at a conference.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't know.
And he talks about like activating your genetics with your consciousness, right?
Yeah, I think that's completely real. I really think we're in a world of beliefs here. I think
Uh,
that's the only way to navigate it because, like, what you're saying, like, there's so much truth to what both of us are saying, even if some things are different. Like, I think when it comes down to it, and I think Bruce kind of hit on this a little bit, which is why it, sorry, resonated with me. It's like, okay, if all these things are true and all of them are happening, like, what do we want to believe to make this a good experience?
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Do you work do you work on reprogramming yourself and your
Yes.
subconscious to manifest like your best possible reality? Or do you believe, like you said earlier, just being your most authentic self will
Yeah.
bring that to you?
That because I used to do the first one, like what you were saying, and I every day
Mm.
I felt tense and anxious because it's like
Yeah.
it's like I wanted it so bad. It's almost like I was desperate, and I still can get that way. I'm not like perfect. Like there's some days where I'm like so desperate, but for the most part now I've been able to reprogram, and I'm still a work in progress where I feel very at peace and very much trust in the plasma and this mystery and God and in my future self that as long as I'm authentic to my heart and soul, whether I'm right or wrong, like everything I said today could be wrong. I don't know. I'm just speaking what I feel, just like you are. And that's all we
Mm.
can do. Like, I don't know any more than you. I don't know any more than anyone. I'm smart, but I don't know any more than anyone. And I just try to speak my truth. I try to make choices from my truth or my heart and soul. And I believe that that will get me to my highest alignment. Do I pray that's a nice house in Montana? Yes. But I'm really okay if it's not. And it pains me to say that, but I'm okay with what is for my highest good. But at the same time, I genuinely believe that that does sync up with my highest
Hmm.
good. So, which is what? I don't know. All I know is I'm not straining for it. I'm flying, I'm doing what I meant to do, and I have faith that my choices will bring me there.
I no, I agree. I agree.
Yeah. And I want to help.
Um,
So selfish talking about Montana. My mission with doing all of this
it's
that's
not
not
selfish.
about me. No, I know. It's just because it really is like the foundation of what Montana would symbolize, I guess, because I kind of maybe should talk about the meaning behind that house is that I help as many people as I can not feel alone and feel like they have power within them. And the more that you realize that you can, whatever's true about the universe, that you can connect to other selves and there's like this whole army of you behind you, and that there is future yous and other beings of love, and that you do have the power within you to live a good life no matter what is thrown at you. Like I would love to like shoot that into everyone.
Uh,
So if people can feel more empowered by learning about plasma and also feel more calm, like a sense of surrender, like that they can't control everything, I would love that to somehow end up with me living in Montana.
do you feel like these plasma beings or any new revelation with UFOs, like what Chris Bledsoe talks about? Because what he talks about, they sound like plasma beings.
Mhm.
And he says like within this year, next year, and 2027, like there's going to be full open contact with these higher dimensional
That'd be cool.
plasma beings.
Mhm.
Um, do you think that will kind of automatically transition us into a higher state
That would
of
be
being in love and
That's such a smart question because when you said earlier the thing about the like singularity and AI and just like having AI be conscious, like I genuinely don't think that will happen until we're more evolved as a whole society. And it's like thinking about everything in the world now, like really like how the fuck would that happen in the next lifetime? But with what you're saying, I think that that's almost, and maybe they're intervening because of that, whoever they are, like maybe that is the only thing to really shock everyone into that because it's like we're clearly not listening to ourselves. Like some of us are, but most of us are ignoring it. And I get why it's scary,
mhm.
but
So
yeah.
do you think we're entering like a new age
Yes.
of enlightenment? Like the age of Aquarius is the age, the golden age of like enlightenment and the shift from what is it,
Yeah.
Pisces or
The
yeah,
Aquarius. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I 100% believe that. I believe I really do. Yeah. I think we're at such an important time. Yeah.
I'm an Aquarius, so I'm like,
Oh,
this is let's go. Yeah.
I'm Aquarius rising and I'm a
Nice.
Gemini Aquarius or something. I don't even know. I love
Yeah.
Aquarius.
Um,
Hi, Danica. Here,
who are
come.
some of your favorite spiritual teachers and scientists, including Jason?
My favorite spiritual teacher is Gangaji. Gangaji is someone that just makes me peaceful. She you can look her up. She's not like world famous, but that's why I like her. She should be world famous. She's been like a I wouldn't call, I don't know, like a teacher. I wouldn't say maybe guru, but she doesn't like that term, I don't think, but she's been like a teacher for people like Russell Targ, who worked in remote viewing and the Stargate program and was a physicist, and she's like been a teacher for a lot of like smart science people. But she's like any religion, any belief, you can go to her, and somehow like when I was with her, I just felt so at peace, and she brought me to a place like beyond everything. I don't know. It's hard to explain. I love Gangaji. Um, and then as far as like physicists, there's someone named, I don't know if he's a physicist, but Frank Washington Very. He worked with plasma stuff. Sir William Crookes, I love him. He loved the paranormal and plasma. He discovered plasma when it was called radiant matter in a Crookes tube, it was called. I like Nassim Haramein. I think that he's right about a lot of
Mhm.
things. I don't know everything he's doing, but I do resonate with his stuff.
He
Uh,
does a good job at taking the science and bringing it down into like more human conceptual,
yeah, like
uh,
I think everything is in a
digestible.
black hole. And he loves the plasma too. So, and then like Lynn McTaggart, the book The Field, Michael Talbot, The Holographic Universe, they were very transformative for me. I think of anyone else that's I'm scared I'm missing someone. Who is really, really oh, Robert Temple, the A New Science of Heaven. Obviously, he like wrote like the first real book about plasma in a metaphysical way. Who else? I just don't want to miss anyone. I'm just looking at my books around me. Uh,
And then there's Jason.
oh well, yeah. I feel
Jason, right? Yeah.
see, it feels like Jason's colleague. Jason, so many of
Yeah.
my friends now inspire me. I mean, everyone around me now inspires me. I was trying to think more of people that like were in the beginning of my journey that I was reading.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
I mean, Jason is on the level with every one of those people. Um, I was more thinking,
And
not my
so,
friend.
because I was going to ask you about Jason, like,
Yeah,
um, just
yeah,
because I've
Jason's
seen both you guys
fun.
together so much,
Yeah.
and he supports so much of what you describe conceptually that he does mathematically. What are
Yeah.
some of like the biggest insights he's given you that give you the mathematical structure to your
Mm,
um, more uh,
metaphysical
not
structure,
yeah, not channeled, but like
metaphysical,
um, yeah,
fluid,
conceptual, yeah,
speculative, abstract.
yeah,
I'm aware. Um, I think that, sorry, he has made me think more about black holes, about the singularity, about our consciousness and information. And Danica, please. And choices and the angular Danica. Sorry.
that's right.
Um, it's hard to I think my dog needs to here. I'm gonna talk as I speak. Hold on. I think it's you want dinner? Hold on, let me give my dog my dinner as I'm talking.
I know we
It's,
got we went long. Sorry.
oh, it's okay. It's okay. I got like 15 more minutes. I think that sorry. I think that with Jason, it's not so much one idea he's had, but every time we talk, I feel like inspired by what he says and I get new ideas. Kind of like the same thing as here, just like bouncing ideas off each other. Like he could be talking about his own thing and I'll get an idea about my own thing from his own thing. And if you asked him that, he would tell you the same thing because we're so focused on our own idea. We're
Hmm.
hearing what each other's saying, but when he talks about his ideas, I only get ideas for my thing. And when I tell him about my ideas, he'll only get more ideas for his thing. So that's the best way
Hmm.
I can describe it.
And do you think he's right that we are living in a black hole and there's a holographic screen made of plasma
Mhm.
and it's a holographic universe? So you think that's correct?
Oh, did I just?
Oh, you went black.
All right, hold on. God, I'm having disconnect. Um, sorry. I'm here. Okay.
There you go.
Do I think yes, I think I So what he says, I already was thinking, but I was calling it other terms. But everything usually almost, I can't think of saying, if he doesn't say something, I'll definitely disagree with him, but everything he said lines up. It's just in a different like language than what I'm saying. So like, for instance, he's talking more about like this reality. Like I think that's 1,000,000% how this reality works. And then I tell him, hey Jason, like there's a plasma field in this fourth dimension too. And I think that's how it works with thoughts and emotions. And now he's starting to like think about that and like is vibing with that. But as far as like our reality, I think he's spot on. I think he is the same. I think he sees it. Yeah.
Okay. Because you describe more stuff in like, he says code and you say plasma.
Yeah.
And
We see.
I wanted to tell you this, like, I thought you might think it's interesting. I'm sure you've seen The Matrix many times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. You know how, like, inside the Matrix, he sees the code? I only
Yes.
realized this the other day. Outside of the Matrix, I always wondered, he sees like a fiery kind of fluid like substance. And I'm like, that's plasma.
Shit. I have to rewatch it.
Yeah. So I'm like, that's inside the Matrix, inside the simulation. That's what Jason says.
Yeah.
Outside of the simulation, in base reality, he sees
Oh,
plasma.
so that's what I'm seeing. Haha, Jason.
Yeah. Let's see.
Cool. I'll use that one. But yeah, so basically he's literally just describing this reality like mathematical terms of what I'm seeing, which is giving substance to what I say in a way that like he can maybe help prove, which I think it'd be very hard for me to prove what I'm seeing without his context. Like he probably has the equations to prove what I'm saying,
Hmm.
and I don't.
I think he said he did.
Yeah, he
You're
does. And he
saying,
called
yeah.
he has things that he hasn't shared yet too that are very interesting. But like, yeah, it's amazing. It's very affirming for me because as we've been talking about, Danica, we obviously like, everyone has belief systems. I could be wrong about a lot of things, but I know what I'm not wrong about, which is not colored by my beliefs. And I say this almost with like I'll 99.9% I think I'm correct about the plasma. I think everything else we talk about, like obviously it's colored with my perspective. I don't think I'm wrong. I think I could be wrong, but with plasma, I'm like dead set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With all this information, how do you stay grounded for the most part? Like, what practices do you do?
Sorry. Danica,
Right.
15 minutes. Um, it is, please hold on, sorry. Um, it with all Danica, stop, please. With all this work, it is very hard to stay grounded. So I have to make an effort, conscious effort to stay grounded. I have a morning and night ritual. If I'm feeling really ungrounded, I'll take a break from my work, like go on a walk. Sometimes I'll have to take a day or two off my work just because it is ungrounding. Um, and I'm like, I mean, I watch reality TV. I'll go to a
Hmm.
amusement park. I'll do a dance class, like gain in touch with nature, um, anything that can get me in my body and out of my thoughts, because a lot of this is thought based and it comes
Hmm.
from feeling. So, yeah, just getting really into my body helps me because that's not usually how I operate. So
So
I'm
being present, focused on something that's not this.
it can to be grounded.
Yeah.
That's not yes, but no, weirdly enough. Like I've been able to when I experience this, I'm grounded. When I talk about it, I become ungrounded. Does that make any sense?
Interesting.
Yeah, like
I think so. Like when people ask me something I think about a lot, sometimes I'll completely blank in public. Like I'm an idiot. I
oh, I mean,
feel
I
really
sound
weird.
like an idiot half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when I'm experiencing it, I feel so grounded, so plugged in. It's only when I'm trying to frickin' explain it that I sound like a baboon.
No, I've definitely had that feeling many
Yeah.
times. Um, I was just to wrap up here. I
Sure.
know you've made several films and stuff, and I just wanted to ask you what your experience was making your feature films and incorporating your metaphysical knowledge in them.
Making my feature films and incorporating my metaphysical knowledge in them. My experience was interesting. The first movie was a very pure experience. I don't regret it. I think I said exactly what I was able to say at that time. I also think I was a little bit like immature knowing how the industry and movie making worked. Obviously, it wasn't like a huge success, but I think I can look back at it and know that like that was my truth. Do I think it had like the best acting and the best like was it the best movie ever? No. Um, but I'm proud that I was true in it. And I think that a lot of people in Hollywood tried to like taint me after that. And I feel very good that I stood up to all those people. And I definitely will make another movie in my own time and choose the people I work with very carefully. And that's all I'll say.
Okay, cool. How'd
Yeah.
you come up with the name Crazy Carrot Films?
Oh, I felt like a carrot. It had something to do with like this golden carrot everyone's chasing. And that I was kind of like setting it free, like setting free what we're all chasing, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Yeah,
And a
that does.
carrot's also like half in the earth, half growing out of it. So I kind of like that like heaven and earth vibe. But it was also just something that came to me. Honestly, the real truth was I was in the shower and I look at the shower and the steam made a carrot image with the weird, crazy air symbol. And I was like, crazy carrot films. And that's really how it happened.
Okay. Little download about carrots.
Yeah.
Um, and then I was going to ask you, yeah, you're speaking at a consciousness conference this
Yeah.
summer.
Mhm.
Any details you want to share on that and your upcoming projects?
Sure. So, yes, my upcoming project is a new force. Obviously, it's a three-book series. I'm almost done with the first book. It will be out this summer
Oh,
on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the places. And then I am speaking at the Science of Consciousness conference in July, in the beginning of July in Barcelona. Stuart Hameroff runs that. He came up with Orco-R theory with Roger Penrose. They're awesome. And I will be speaking there on Orco-R theory and what it has to do with plasma and microtubules in the brain and how plasma is the vehicle for consciousness. And then I will also be presenting on plasmoids and what that has to do with plasma being the vehicle for consciousness. And I feel very excited about those things. And that is it, I think.
nice. Cool. Sounds fun.
And I have a
You're
movie.
surrounded by a lot of very influential top players in science. It's got
It's
to feel, cool.
it only feels cool because I'm like the only one without a PhD. And I know that I'm onto something, but it doesn't mean I feel insecure at times because I don't have that like I have the education, I've studied, but I don't have the actual education because, in that time in my life, I had an addiction. I didn't go to college, all these other challenges I was facing. And I know I can talk, be with the big boys and talk all that stuff, but it's like the sometimes I still have to pinch myself that like they let me in that. But at the same time, like I know what I'm saying has value and it's a different perspective that if I went to school, I would have never had. If I learned about plasma first in science and didn't intuitively sense out what it was, I would have missed all the beautiful things about it that science doesn't know. And now I'm learning the science and I'm able to learn backwards and connect it with science and also come up with like what I think is revolutionary new things. Yeah.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you're at a very exciting time in your life and you're just blossoming into that flower. And I'm proud of you. I know you've been through a lot. And
Thanks.
that's
Same.
awesome.
Same.
Congratulations.
For both flowers.
Both
We're
flowers.
blooming. It's just
All
the
right. And where can everyone, they can pre order your book on your website, right?
Well, so they can go on my website and sign up, but unfortunately, because I self-published, I can't do like a pre-order link, which I wish I could. So that just sign up on my website. There'll be a pop-up. You put your email in, and then I will email you on an email list the second my book is out, which will be probably in June, maybe the end of June. It depends, but either way, it's definitely June. Um,
Okay.
beginning of July. But either way, it's very soon. I'm working out with my editor, and you can find me on Instagram at dana.thealien, on TikTok at Dana Kippel, on YouTube at Plasma Intelligence. And that is about, and danakippel.com is my website.
Awesome. And then you can check out our movies on Amazon Prime.
Oh
Right?
yeah, my movie
You want to check
Reflect, if you want to see some great old indie filmmaking. And the metaphysical aspect of that, by the way, I didn't talk much about plasma, but I basically just came up with it. I wrote it and I made the movie, and I feel like it channeled whatever truths I knew at that time about my life.
Cool. Well, thank you, Dana, for joining me. I think we had a great conversation. I know we went over double.
It's okay. I
So,
enjoyed talking, or I would have made an excuse to get off.
okay, cool.
I usually
Well,
don't tell people I have a limit because, like, if I want to get off, I'm like, bye.
mhm. Well, I'm glad I didn't. I know I kept you a little long. Sorry, but
Okay,
I'm
you're
glad you
good.
had a good
I
time.
enjoyed also learning about you, and I think you need to interview yourself one day because I would like to hear more about your story and like what even got you in your situations and stuff. So we'll talk again, I'm sure.
Sure, yeah. You can always reach out to me
Oh,
anytime or
yeah, you
text
can
me.
come
And
on my live.
yeah, anytime.
Oh, perfect.
Anytime.
I'll interview you.
Sure. Cool. All right.
All right,
Thanks,
email
Dana.
me.
And thanks,
I'll
everyone,
set
for
it up.
watching. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.